because everybody thinks it was a car bomb. It wasn't a car bomb. Our human source goes, hey, I got him, PID'd. He's in this office right here, blah, 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 downtown Aden. So we go rolling in, jump out of the vehicles, and it's game on. Shooting starts right away. So I run across the street, firefights on. Abraham just takes off and starts running down the street the other way. Like, where the hell's he going? I'm at the door, and Isaac never left the vehicle. He's supposed to be here with me, so I'm alone at the breach point, right? So that was a little nerve-wracking because I'm like, I got my weapon slung to my side. I got my hands full trying to put it. But I actually was trying to open the doors. I'm going to open the doors, I had a couple of French hand grenades, throw those in there, and they come in and shoot me.
So you highlighted this a bit on Julian's podcast, and it's a really interesting way to phrase it. I kind of pushed it a little bit more into a quote. But you said there's a key difference between being afraid to die and being prepared to die. How would you speak to that?
Yeah. So the fear of death is what keeps us alive. It's what causes you to look left and right before you cross the street. But being prepared to die. A lot of people are not ready to die. And my question is, if you walk out of the house today, are you prepared to get run over by a car? Are you prepared to, get shot? Are you prepared to, whatever, right? Die today. And most people are not. And so in order to be prepared for death, you have to resolve your own death. And what does that mean? That means knowing that if something happens to you right now, there's not going to be any hesitation on your part, no regrets. You've taken care of your life insurance, for example. You kissed your wife goodbye. You said goodbye to your children this morning. You didn't leave the house angry at your wife. You want to walk away with a clear mind, right? And so a lot of guys can't do that, and they haven't done that. And I've seen guys where they've hesitated in a life and death moment, like you have no choice, but this guy's going to kill you. What are you going to do? And they tend to balk or hesitate or negotiate. Wait, and boom, they're dead, right? It's like it doesn't work. The most dangerous man you can go up against is the guy who's resolved his own death. He's not afraid to die. Mm-hmm. He's already, for example, I'm not afraid to die. I'm prepared to die. I'm not going to hesitate. And so I always tell people when I do die, I'm going to die with a smile on my face because I've done everything I wanted to do many times over, and I've made sure that everything's in order in my personal life so that my family's taken care of. I have no reason to hesitate to respond, and that's what I mean by that. So resolve your own death. That means, and to include, what do you think is going to happen to you when you do die? Are you a religious person? Do you believe in God? Are you going to go to heaven? Are you going to go to hell? Are you going to turn in a fertilizer? What's going to be, are you prepared for that? Have you made peace, with yourself and with your God or whatever it is that, your belief system is grounded in. So honestly, I believe in a higher power. I don't believe in religion. Anything that man has his hands on, including scripture, and he's writing it, I don't believe it, right? It's full of shit. Men are liars across the board. No doubt. And, they're manipulators. And so, anyways, I believe in a higher power. Do I believe in a guy with a beard standing up in the heavens somewhere in the green pastures? No. But I do believe we live on, and I kind of tend to believe that I know that when I die, I'll continue to exist. My spirit, what is my spirit's energy? It's frequency. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. It'll live on. And I take solace in that because it's taken me a long time to arrive at that conclusion, but I've done the studying. I've done a lot of introspection. I've done a lot of analysis. I've listened, I've read, I've looked. And what I've concluded is we don't actually die. We do live on, but not in our present form. And the heaven is really in your mind. In fact, I would quote Billy Carson. He said that we are our own gods. God's in our head, and we have influence over our own universe, right? And so I kind of believe that. Mm-hmm. And so I guess we'll all know whether I'm right or wrong.
Yeah, we all find out one day.
One day we're going to find out, right? And so I've seen, oh man, I've seen a lot of death because of, religion, uh, half the world's problems are centered on religion,
No doubt.
and belief systems. And, I don't know, man. I mean, you look at what's going on right now in Israel. It's like, okay, what are we fighting over? We're fighting over what? Religion, or is it land, or is it something else? I think it's something else. But oftentimes, religion is used as the reason, the medium, for war.
Let me ask that then too, because like we're gonna start deep diving into your time as mercenary, obviously with Delta and everything as well. I think the way you look at it is where a lot of people are starting to move, thankfully, in that, there's no right or wrong. It's more an openness into what's next. And I think that's pretty critical. And it, like you're saying, it could help solve a lot of issues. When you're in some of these situations operating, as a mercenary, and you're surrounded by individuals that maybe don't have, the same background in Delta, they might be SEALs, they might be French Foreign Legion, they might be whatever do you tend to see a similar sense of connection with what's next? Or do you also tend to see those that, lack of a better word, maybe don't have that connection, don't think there is a next, and that's why? Like, what do you usually see within that line of work, and what do you think with that?
So when I was in the unit as a whole, and most people in it were very spiritual, right? So, for example, before we did an operation, was it Lee Greenwood? We always say this. What's the song he sings about America? God, Lee Greenwood. Anyways,
Could pick it up.
Yeah, I'm having a brain fart right now. But so we always did that, and we always said a prayer, right? Usually, somebody like General Boykin.
Oh, God bless the U.S.
Yeah, God bless you. Geez, how can you forget that, right? it's jet lag. All right, so I'm blaming it on jet lag. But yeah, God bless America. We sang that every time, and we also always said a prayer, right? As a unit, usually led by somebody like General Boykin or chaplain. So there was a strong belief in religion, God, and higher purpose, right? And now it seems to be the kind of across the board that way. And I think when I look at you look at combat arms, and look who kind of comprises that mostly. It tends to be, talking about the military service, it tends to be those that believe in the American way of life, the Constitution, God, John Wayne, that kind of attitude, very patriotic. And people that are very patriotic tend to believe in God. Now what is God? Well, in a traditional sense, it's this guy, so that made everything, and that's okay. I think there's a strong parallel between God and science, and in metaphysics. I think there's an interconnectivity there. But I found across the board, most guys in combat arms tend to be God-fearing, religious people, patriots. And I mentioned this again yesterday on Alex Jones' show. The U.S. government is sadly mistaken if they think they can in any way mobilize the U.S. military to fire on American citizens. It's not going to happen. Why? Because the guys you're telling to pull the trigger tend to be like regular American citizens. They tend to be the patriots. They tend to believe in God. They tend to believe in the Constitution. They're patriots. Mm-hmm. And so, I think the government would be foolish to think that would happen. It's not. And so, and I kind of said it yesterday. I wasn't making a threat, because I don't want to sound like a revolutionary, but essentially what I was trying to put out there was, be careful who you trifle with, because there's millions of veterans out here, and we're still very capable. In fact, we're the most powerful force in America, hands down, And so, we don't want to fight our own soldiers, our own sons, right? It'd be like me fighting my kid. He's a Green Beret, we don't want to do that, and we're not going to do that. And so be careful, when you start, poking at the beehive, man, those bees might come out and sting you at the end of the day. So, But yeah, I think there's a strong God proponent.
Do you think that makes combat easier?
Actually, so when I look at the guys that I was with, we say make combat easier. Combat was actually, for me, wasn't hard. Combat was easy because it was thrilling. I looked forward to it, right? So I didn't need a God component. I didn't need courage, okay? And there's a difference, right? And so, there's guys that are fearless. And the problem with fearless guys is too stupid to realize they're in trouble. They do it anyways, okay? That's a bad guy. That's an idiot, right? We were fearless when we were teenagers. We're the ones that did dumb shit like, jump off the roof of your house into a snowbank, Evil Knievel stuff on the bikes. Okay, that's fearlessness, but it's not necessarily smart. Then there's the courageous guy, right? The courageous guy, in spite of his fears, faces his fears and acts anyways. Now, that still doesn't mean he's acting properly or acting right. He's making the right choices. He's just doing something. He's just not standing on the X, right? But he's not reckless either. And then you have what I call the confident guy. I kind of categorize myself because I'm that guy that's comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And I've been in a lot of uncomfortable places. I'm very comfortable at. So combat actually doesn't scare me. And probably most of the guys I've been with, because we're the same cut of cloth, they were never afraid. They never needed some type of encouragement or empowerment to go do this job. If you want to even call it a job, it's like, we look forward to this. And so, I mean, look, I was a professional boxer, kickboxer, do you think I got in a ring fighting out of fear? Hell no. I went in there, not out of bloodlust, but out of confidence, Everything else was accepted. I'm going to get punched in the face a lot. It's going to hurt. I accepted that. I didn't worry about that. It's like, that's a given. What I focused on was the outcome, me winning. That was my focal point, not trying to not get hurt, and not, suffer, that comes with it, when I've lost a lot of friends, in combat, and, we never sit around and go, oh man, that's a horrible way to die, and we're like, what? He went out the way he wants to go out, man. He went out swinging. Yeah, he got fucked up pretty good, but you know what? It's the way he would have wanted it, We all would have wanted it, And the biggest fear a lot of guys have like me is just dying of old age, and fucking laying in your goddamn bed one night and just fucking go out. It's like, what? That's not how we want to go, right? I want to go out freaking doing something good, on my feet. So it brings up some interesting points, Some guys they need that courage, and they need to find courage, right? And to motivate them, keep fighting. Those are guys that are fighting because it's the courageous thing to do, right? Guys that tend to join the military, they want to do something good for their country. They want to feel good about themselves. They don't feel good about the idea of maybe getting killed, so they need the courage to get them there. Nothing wrong with that. If I had to pick between the fearless guy and the courageous guy, I'd pick the courageous guy. The fearless guy he's just a wreck. He's going to get us all killed anyways. At least the courageous guy, he's got some common sense. But I was always surrounded by guys with confidence. They didn't need courage, and they weren't fearless. They were smart, calculated risk takers, right? And they were doing this job because they actually liked it, right? Not because, I have to do it for God and country, it's the right. No, we did it because, we did it for all those reasons too. We also did it because we actually liked it. I don't go in the ring because I'm fighting out of fear. I go in because I like it. I don't mind the pain. It's just part of it, So it's a different mindset. So I found that guys that they want to do the right thing and they have inhibitions, they go fight out of courage, tend to be the ones, I think, that have these psychological issues after that, right? They have a hard time coping. Now, what's interesting, and I don't have a problem saying this out loud, but, I'm a 100% disabled veteran. I've got PTSD. I've been rated with PTSD, severe PTSD, other injuries, but my PTSD isn't because of the horrors of, oh my God, this guy might try to kill me. And, that's not where I got my PTSD from. My PTSD is from, men dying in my arms, watching children and women get killed, get hurt, that's what gives me the trauma, And I think I've told this story before. The stuff that resonates with guys that, even guys like me that boldly walk into the ring, or on the battlefield, the fight, I love the fight. It's okay. I love the fight. It's fine. But what I don't love is the collateral damage, the innocent people that get hurt. So, for example, back in when I was in Iraq, I was in Secretive, and I was working with the Alphabet Company, and the squadron from Delta was there. I was co-located with them, and Tikrit was Saddam Hussein's hometown. Right, it was a bad place, really bad place. And they wanted to go into this neighborhood one day, and there was a guy that we wanted to get. I don't remember his name. I just remember he had red hair, and basically when they're going to do a raid, they're going to go in and get him. And so my job was to go in. Basically, I dressed up. I would call it getting hajied up, so I looked like an Arab, right? I had a beard. I looked like an Arab man.
That mustache too.
I had a whole beard, man. I mean, I definitely looked like a Middle Easterner, right? I put on, all the gear. So I ride in, and my job is to PID, positively identify the home, right? So everything's together. It's all like one long rows of houses, right, and walls and stuff. It's not like here in the United States. And so they all look the same. So I needed to go by, pick the house, go, yep, that's the house there. And I remember I drove up, there was a red car parked there. I was going, okay, red car, that's the house. Okay, got it. So I leave the neighborhood, I go back out, I meet the unit, give them a quick briefing, and then they're going to follow me into to the neighborhood, and I'm going to take them right up to the house. And then I'm going to get out and do the assault. And so as I drive back, I'll be damned, the red car's gone, right? So now it all looks the same. I was like, oh shit. And so I got a whole convoy behind me, right, assaulters. And luckily I got it right. I knew, okay, this has got to be it. So I hit the brakes, and there's a little kid about 2 years old standing on the sidewalks. And it's actually the target's son, right? He's standing there, and he's just standing there like, what's going on here? And as soon as I hit the brakes, everybody bails out, man. They're busting down the gates. They're running down there, screaming and hollering, shots fired, And this kid's standing on the street just freaking out, man. Mm-hmm. He's just bawling and screaming. His mouth's wide open and tearing up. And, all hell's breaking loose right now in his house, And he's mortified, And I get out of the vehicle, and I'm on the street, I got my weapon in my hand, I had a SR-16, pull security, and I just look at this kid screaming. I'm like, oh my God, all I can see is my 2-year-old son. Yeah. That's all I could see there. It's like, and I didn't know what else to do, man, other than run over and grab him, and just pick him up, and hold him and go, hey, man, I got a weapon in one hand and him in my other hand. I was like, it's going to be all right, little buddy, Yeah, and I'm trying to calm him down like my boy, if it was my boy,
You want someone to do that.
Oh my God, man. Yeah, it just broke my heart, to see the pain and the fear, in this kid's eyes, and the screaming. And I'm trying to comfort him. I'm thinking in the future, how is he going to remember this day, if his dad even comes back, if he even makes it alive out of this compound today, And those are the kind of things that resonate with you, I've seen, I one time I did, so I was in Afghanistan, and I've told this, I think, story a couple of times before. So our camp was at about 7,000 feet elevation, way up the Kunar province, up in the Pakistani mountains. And it looked like a scene out of The Lord of the Rings. It was really beautiful, picturesque, man. The high mountains and snow caps, it's just beautiful.
Country is beautiful. It's
sad. And so we were about 7,000 feet. We had an OP at about 9,000 feet. So 2,000 feet above us, we had an observation post. Basically, had a platoon-sized element up there, and they could see 360. And they provided overwatch for us. And also, on the other side of the mountain, down in the valley, was a Taliban village, right? So what was happening was Taliban would come up the side of the mountain, and then they would take pot shots at our guys in the compound. Sometimes they'd wound them and kill them. So they're kind of hit and run tactics, right? Mm-hmm. But it was very steep terrain. And then the other thing they would do is they'd launch mortars from this side of the village up over the mountain, and they'd land on top of us, right? And so I ran my mortar section, So I had a mortar pit set. I had 120s, 80s. Mostly 120s though, but 82 millimeters. And I had Afghans that were trained to be mortarmen, right? So they knew how to do everything. I mean, they were really good at it, man. They knew the whiz wheel. They knew it all, man. So usually what would happen around 4:30 in the morning, that's when the sun came up. That's also when the Muslims would go to prayer, right? Prayer call, right? So they're up 4:30, bright and early, sun's up. I'm still in Iraq, and sure as shit, every 4:30 in the morning, they're like, yeah, let's go to pray. And hey, while we're at it, let's just throw a couple of mortars at these guys too, right? So on the way, right to church. And we get over the radio, we got incoming, you hear explosions, and it's 4:30 in the morning, can I get some sleep? So I had to jump out of bed and I'd run out in the mortar pit. My guys were already down there and, returning fire. And so that was happening every morning. And then, they were starting to take shots at our OP up on top. And I just got a little tired of it one day. I was like, you know what? I want some sleep. So I got a fire team with me, or a squad. And I took them with me. We went to the top of to the mountain up there. And I had those guys stop where they were. I said, I'm gonna move forward and I'm gonna do a reconnaissance. Basically, I knew where the Taliban were coming. They were coming up the side of the mountain. There were about 3 or 4 different avenues of approach that they were using. They would sneak up, take shots, right, and then go back and slide down the mountain. I said, what I'm gonna do is booby trap all those areas where I know they're coming up, where they're either walking up or they're shooting from, right? So I set up a bunch of booby traps, is what I did. And I didn't want the guys coming with me because I didn't want them walking through, 1, and 2, didn't really want them to know where they were at, honestly, even though they were my Afghans. You just never trust anybody 100% because I know we had Taliban in the ranks. We had bad guys that pretended to be good guys with us, right? Mm-hmm. And so I said, you just stay off there, pull security. I'm going to do this. So I put in a bunch of booby traps. I was using hand grenades to set them up, but the tripwire hand grenades, it was pretty good. And got all set up. I think I probably in place 5 or 6 of them. I left, brought the team back down. And then I had to leave the next day back to the States for 30 days. So I take off. I come back 30 days later. And my counterpart, another American named Dave, former Green Beret, who, by the way, committed suicide not long after. Really nice guy, jolly guy, just a lot of fun to be around. He was the life of the party. Just a really good person. And you never know, man, when people, they smile on the outside, but you don't know what's happening on the inside, And sure enough, he went back to Southern Pines, North Carolina, walked down the front lawn one day, put a 45 to himself and ended it all. But anyways, he was there. Me and him worked together quite a bit. I came back, and normally what happens is you get a briefing. Okay, hey, man, what happened the last 30 days? Well, this, that, and that. This is what we got going on. This is going to happen on, so you get an overview. And so when I came back, I go, hey, man, so how did, how did the booby traps work out? He goes, oh, man, it worked out pretty good. He goes, you killed a goat and you killed a kid. I'm like, what? Right? So, goat walked through one of them. He got taken out. And I go, what do you mean I killed a kid? And he goes, well, you didn't kill the kid. He goes, his dad sent him up there because what they do is, they're poor people. So they'll look for empty casings, brass, anything they can salvage, metal, junk metal, and get some money for it, right? So it can live off it. And so he sent the kid up there to collect expended brass, munitions, anything he could find, salvage, bring it back. And the boy was, I believe the boy was 14. And so he goes up there and walks through my booby trap, kills him, right? He shouldn't have been up there. It's kind of known, hey, you don't hang around the military, the OPs and stuff like that, but he did. He walked up there, walked through my booby trap, killed him. Then the father turns around, sends his 10-year-old son up there to go right behind him. And he walks through and loses a leg on one of them, right? So they actually find the older boy in a dump down at the base, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know why he was in the dump. Never got that figured out, but they found his body in the dump. And so like, holy shit, right? So now I had to do a lot of thinking. It's like, okay, was it worth doing that, right? And my reasoning was, look, my soldiers have family, they have kids, right? And so this is a war, and I need to protect these guys so they can go home to their family and their kids. And I got to do what I can do, right? So I put the booby traps in, not expecting what happened. And so then on the other hand, it's like, okay, another guy sends his kids up there because he wants to survive too. And, he loses his kids, so war is ugly. And for me, it was it was a tough moment because I got to make a decision. Did I do the right thing or did I do the wrong thing? Right? I'm trying to sort this out in my head. What's right? What's wrong here? And looking at the justifications of it all. And I thought, well, should I leave them up there and continue on, or should I take it down? And so I made a decision. I said, you know what? I'm gonna take them down. Those guys are gonna have to be more vigilant and be ready to shoot and hide better. That's what it's gonna have to come down to, right? Mm-hmm. And so I go back up there, take my squad with me, hold them up. But what I didn't know in the 30 days I was gone, the OP had called in a artillery strike on their position because they were getting attacked. So they called in some 155 battery. All right, so you got 105 millimeter artillery rounds coming from a couple of kilometers away, and the rounds were impacting right there in the area where I laid all the booby traps. Oh boy! Right, so you got trees and shit are split in half, and just decimated area. I'm like, hell. So now I got to go in there and find my booby traps in this mess. And that was problematic because the things I memorized, my booby traps were gone. Now. There was a tree out there, I had this one, Our reference points are kind of mixed up. So I'm waiting in there and I'm literally like finding some of my systems were like just right on the cusp of going off. I mean, like I made a joke in my book that if a bird farted, it would have went off, right? And I was like, holy shit, I'm trying to sneak up to these things and grab it before it goes off, and then I'm holding these live grenades with no pins in them. And I'm like, what am I going to do with them? So I just started throwing them down over the mountain and down to the village, and getting rid of them. So I recovered them all, those that weren't detonated. And I called that, a day. And decided I was might have been the right choice, but on the other hand, it didn't need to do it, right? So it is what it is. Those are the kind of things that keep up with you, I've seen other things, nothing like seeing 4 little bodies covered up in little blankets, and stuff like that, and that's what haunts you. It's not the actual combat.
Seeing the evil.
Yeah, it's the collateral damage. It's this personal side that you can really relate to, hearing women, the screams of women, when you go into their homes and come after their husbands and their sons and their brothers and uncles and listen to the screams of the women, the horror, and the kids, and they're all huddled together in the corner. And, it's like, that's what gets you, man, because you relate to your own family, and it really pisses you off because it's like, why would you put your family in a situation? Why would you do that? You stupid son of a bitch, But they had no problem doing that shit, and that was really was aggravating more than anything else. And that's the part I have coping problems with, coping issues with is that part, It's not the combat. I love the combat, Okay, you win, I signed up for it. It's like a boxing match, You knock me out, hey, that's what I get,
Yeah.
But it's the other part,
humanity, kind of what we just ended on a bit ago.
Yeah. So some guys have hard times dealing with just the combat alone. For me, it's not the combat, it's the other part, So, people will call you names and, killers and, and murderers, like the Vietnam vets that came back, got spat on and shit, Man, those guys weren't over. They're just doing their job. They're just being patriots. They think they're doing the right thing, and, but they're perceived as something other than they're evil, I mean, I've heard the stories. I've heard it from my own family, that was in Vietnam, it's like they come back and, they don't want, they're like outcasts, no respect. And I kind of sensed that a little bit. Even today, it seems like that's coming back now.
I feel like a lot of people don't understand how messy war really can be and how, an effect today can have impact decades later.
Yeah, if you're a moral person, it should affect you. And then, of course, the argument the other assholes will make is, well, if you're a moral person, you wouldn't go killing people. Well, you know what? Man is the warring ape. Quote Gustave Le Bon, right? He said, "Man is the warring ape." I believe that. That's in our nature. right? That's what we do, you know.
And the guys you are targeting too will have no problem.
No, you know, and that's called life. You don't have to like it, but death is part of life, and so is war, man. We will never all get along, ever. It's not in our nature. It's not in man's nature. It's just not. You know, there's 3 things that drive us. This is my quote, and, you know, people kind of giggle sometimes when I say it, but, you know, give you a better explanation of what I'm going to give you. It's like this. We're motivated by 3 things. We're motivated by money and power, and those are interchangeable. You got power, you get money, you got money, you got power. And what's the third thing? Pussy.
Yeah.
Right? Right?
No doubt.
Because what's the point of having money and power if you ain't getting no pussy? Because it all comes down to procreation, right?
Still animals at the end of the day.
Exactly. Because that's what we're fighting for, right? Mm-hmm. We're fighting for power. We're fighting for money. Why? Because it all comes down to the most rudimentary thing that makes us, it's the most rudimentary thing of all living things is to procreate, you know, keep the species alive, keep it going, right? And so that's the driving force, you know, and some people will scoff at that. They think they're higher, they're better than that, but that's the reality of it, you know? And that's what motivates us, that's what drives us. There will never be peace. It's just never gonna happen. We are the warring ape. You know, since recorded history, we've had over 12,000 wars, you know? And what's interesting too on that note is, you know, when women, I'm not bashing women, I love women, but here's the reality. Men and women are not equal. Women cannot do everything men can do. Women are not warriors. Men are protectors and providers. Women are nurturers and incubators. We all have a purpose, right? And so wars are fought by men, always have been. Show me one time in history where any women have amassed an army to protect their children and their husbands and their country, and fought another army of women or men. It's never happened. It's never happened, right? Yeah. It's always men. And what drives us? Well, power and money, right? Why money? Well, money is an extension of power, right? And it's flexing is what it comes in. I think Andrew Tate said it perfectly one time, you know? He said, basically, that's why, you know, when guys have stuff, opulence, it's nothing more like being a peacock, you know? You got big ass feathers. Look at my big ass peacock feathers.
Ability
right?
for protection too.
Right. And so, you know, and that's the reality of it. And you know, and it's all to one end, you know, procreation, you know. We want resources. And guess why women like men? It's not because they love you. I mean, that's kind of it's kind of a component, but it's not really, is it really love? What it really is protection, right? And security. Hey, this guy's got resources. He can take care of me and my children. Yeah. I like that guy.
There's still those animalistic instincts.
Right. It's always that way, right?
Fundamental, like there, of course, as we've become more advanced or whatever's happening up here, there's some complexity to that. But at the end of the day, it boils down to
it's always down to that.
The animalistic instincts. Like
it always comes down to that.
Yeah. You know, I was saying this to somebody. The difference between us now and somebody that was in Alexander the Great's army, they're like, oh, completely different. I'm like, no, that's same person. They're the same as we are. We just, if you took that person, you know, and they somehow were born today with a family and everything, it's the same person. Like there's no difference up here at the end of the day. But we like to think that there's this huge separation. We like to think that the people that were killing with swords and close quarter, it's like, no, it's at the end of the day, we're still human. We're just humans with cool machines and able to speak in a mic.
Exactly.
And shit,
we're just more advanced, but that doesn't change our fundamental human nature, right? That's it.
Exactly.
And so the sooner everybody accepts that and realizes that's the reality of it, we'll probably get along a lot better. I was talking to my friend Tommy. He runs actually Tommy's podcast, TPC, Tommy Carrington. And a couple of days ago, we were talking about, you know, the world we live in right now. And he said something really funny. He said, you know, imagine if we could go back in time and speak to our cavemen forefathers, right? And we could sit around a campfire and we told our cavemen ancestors, you know, this little fucking 5'8" fat fucking guy in government stuck us with needles full of chemicals to protect us from a virus that had 99.9978%, survival rate.
Be like,
and they're like, and what did you do? Did you smash them over the head with a rock or maybe a dinosaur bone? No, we just actually went along with it and locked ourselves in the house until they told us we could come out. It's like, our answers would be laughing at us like what happened to you guys,
Going with, so you mentioned this as well, and I'm actually interested in talking with this, is you transferred from Delta into OGA and working with a 3-letter agency as well on, their SAD group, and a lot of dynamics go with that. So I think a lot of people would be interested in knowing like what the recruiting or the transition process kind of looks like, because you're obviously going from one of the world's most exclusive units to one of the world's most exclusive units type of, movement there. So what did that transition process look like?
That transition process is word of mouth network, right? So here's how I got kind of recruited. So of all things, my ex-wife, right? She married a guy who used to be in the Army. He went to law school. He got recruited on campus to be a case officer. And then when all this stuff happened, 9/11, he's like, comes over to my house one day. He goes, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you. Would you like a job?" And I'm doing what? And he told me what the job was. And I already started my own company. I was doing very well. I had a big company, sold it to G4S. But it appealed to me. I said, "Well, can I do my other thing too?" He goes, "Yeah, you can do both. You'd be a contractor, I see, and you can do both." So that sounds good to me, but it's not that easy, right? So when you go work for like 3-letter agencies, particularly that one, it's not a good old boy network. That might get you to the doorstep, but to get in and get a seat at the table, you're going to go through one of the hardest background checks you'll ever get, even harder than the military, man. They will go back to your first grade teacher 60 years ago. What did little Johnny say, and what did Johnny do, it's really crazy, man. It takes a long time for the do that. And then the other part of it is polygraph testing. They'll test you on polygraphs. You will take polygraphs, and that gets a lot of guys, is the polygraph, right? And so there's different types of polygraphs. There's a lifestyle polygraph, and then there's a security polygraph, where they just want to make sure that you're not in any ways will compromise any type of intelligence or something like that, right? And haven't in the past. And then the lifestyle one includes more things like, things that you do, like have you ever used drugs, or this or that or whatever. It kind of overlaps a little bit, but the polygraph's pretty tough. The background check's really tough. I know some really good guys that have never made it, could not make it in there just because they had some little blurb from a long time ago. It's like, damn.
So you haven't seen me picture perfect, basically, for the most part.
Yeah, as close as you can be, I had a friend text me a couple of days ago. He goes, "Hey, did you get invited to come to this reunion?" I've never been to one, never heard, didn't even know they had. It's been a long time too since I've been there. You ever been to this? You got a reunion. Did you get invited? I go, "What reunion?" He told me. I go, "Nah." I said, "I'm probably PNG, because, I'm out there." And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "I got invited," and then they called me back and said I got uninvited. I go, "Why?" He goes, "Well, because I was on a podcast." I said, "You were on a podcast and they invited you?" He goes, "Yeah." They wouldn't even talk about nothing special,
Yeah. And you're like, yeah.
Damn, I said, no. I said, yeah, kind of funny, right? But that was an experience. The polygraphs, that's a hell of an experience. That's a crazy experience. Yeah.
I know you obviously can't go into the questions, but in general, are they looking? Is it similar to your experience in Delta, where they're looking to get in your head?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, they want to make sure that you're reliable, you're trustworthy, that you have integrity, all those things that go along with that. But I can tell you a little bit about one of the polygraphs I took without getting into the questioning part. So I do a very lengthy polygraph test. These things can go on for long hours to days. I'm not shitting you, man. I know guys sat through them for days. Like, what? So mine wasn't days, but it was long. It was quite a few. It was a good day. And anyways, the guy that was testing me was just a jerk, literally a jerk. He started off, give you an example. I was told to be at this certain building at a certain time in the morning. It was a Saturday morning. I go try to get in the door and it's locked. I guess I get here too early. So I'm sitting in the car watching the building. Nothing's going on. Nobody shows up. Time has passed. Finally, I get a phone call from a guy. He's like, "Hey, man, where the fuck are you? You're supposed to be there." I go, "I was. The door's locked." He goes, "No, the door's not locked. You need to hurry up and get in there." Huh? Sure as shit, the door's unlocked. It wouldn't have locked a minute ago, and nobody walked in there because I'm sitting right here in front of it. How do they do that? So I walk in and I go upstairs. The guy's sitting behind the table, and he's not even looking at me. He won't even look at me. He's just looking, doing something, writing something. "Come on in." And "You're late." And I started explaining, and I was like, fuck it, don't go down that road. Just let it go.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. It's like, okay, whatever. And he said, "Sit down." He goes, "Sit down right there." So I sit down. Got the laptop and all the wires and stuff, and I'm looking. It's just a blank room. Nothing on the walls, just white walls, just a square little room, right? And I'm just kind of looking around and looking at the equipment, and he finally looks at it and goes, "What are you looking at?" "Oh, just looking at, all the stuff, the equipment. I've never seen this before. Never done this before. Just saw it in the movies, Trying to make conversation." She goes, "What? You think this is a movie? Huh? You think this is Hollywood?" "What the fuck is your problem?" "What the fuck is wrong with this guy?" Yeah. And he goes, "You're late. I could have been fishing this morning, but no, I had to come in here to give you this test, And I'm like, "Dude, chill, man." It's like, what?
It's a good start. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what is, I said, okay. And so then he hooks me all up. He tells me to stare at the fucking wall, and does all the control. So I don't even know how this works. I have no idea how this works, right? I've never done this before. I had no clue. Hooking me up. He's asking me a bunch of questions, Turns out they're called control questions, right? So initially they'll ask you, "Is your name Dale?" "Yeah." And they look at the little thing and they get a baseline, right? That's what they're doing. "Are you whatever? You're 61 years old?" "Yep." "Okay, baseline." He'll ask you questions he knows are true, right? That way, anything I say that's not true, and I ran and give the wrong answer, it'll look different, right? That's kind of how I do it. Now, I didn't know that until later on that day when I went home. So he starts asking me a bunch of questions, and it kind of turned into not a questioning period. Like, okay, normally they just ask you a question. Have you ever told a secret to somebody? Right, pretty simple. And yes, right? Because now I'm thinking about when I was 5 years old, and I told my buddy I grabbed the girl's pussy on the playground, right? I did a Trump thing, which is cool, and so I'm thinking way back, right? So yeah, we all have told a lie or did whatever, right? Told a secret, and then that opens up another rabbit hole. It's like, oh, so you're a liar.
Yeah, they want to know what, when, how.
Yeah. Oh, you tell secrets, and then somehow that just escalates into other shit, and you're going down all these rabbit holes, and your head's just spinning, and then you're trying to explain it, and then he's arguing with you why you're wrong, and before you know it, you're having like this intellectual discourse about shit that's not even related to a polygraph test. It's like psychology now, and he's like, he says he knows more than I do. I go, no, I know more than you do. It's like, are we doing this or what are we doing now, right? It turned into those one of the sessions, and then when it was all over, he's sitting there, I'm back at the table, he's writing down, and I'm standing right there, and he's like, "You didn't do so well." And I'm like, okay. It's fine. I didn't want this job anyways. I got a job, I got a company, but
yeah, that's
whatever.
Me, yeah.
Right? Like, so what? He goes, "You didn't do so well. Well, we'll let you know. Bye." Fucking dick, right? So I freaking leave, right? I fly home back to North Carolina, and I come home that evening, and I'm just hammered, man, because the whole way I'm thinking, what just happened? This was like, what happened here just now? This is like really bizarre shit. And I walk in the house, and I go into the bedroom, and I have my computer in there. I get on the computer, and I type in antipolygraph.org, right? I'm looking at polygraphs, and what pops up is antipolygraph.org. And poof, pops up. And then my wife comes in, she's looking over my shoulder. She goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "I'm trying to figure out what just happened today," right? And she goes, "You sure you should be doing that?" I go, why? She goes, what if they're watching? I go, they're not watching. We're in our bedroom, right? And I said, I want to know what happened today, right? And I go, oh, see, control questions. That's what they do. Okay. And then I get it. And oh, this what happens. And this what, because I went in totally clueless.
Yeah.
Right. And so now I'm getting a little smart. I go, oh, I wish I knew this beforehand. Well, I didn't. Okay. So done. Next day I get a phone call. Hey, you're good. You're good to go, man. You made it. Congratulations. I go, what? Right. I still can't believe none of this shit. Right. It's like, how the fuck? No way. And so, no, you're good. He said, we'll call you back with, follow instructions. Like 6 weeks go by. I don't hear nothing. He calls me, hey, man, sorry, I got to tell you something. You didn't do so well. There was one question you had a problem with, just one. They want to do this thing again. And I'm thinking, do I really want to do this again? Do I really want to go all the way up there and do all this shit again after this last fucking ordeal? He goes, it's just one, you'd be good, man. Just one, all right? I said, okay. So I go do it again. And this time, turned out different. Doors open when it's supposed to be. I walk in, it's a different guy. And he's really nice. Hey, man, how's it going? Hey, welcome back. Come on in and have a seat, And I'm like really like looking at him like, yeah, bitch, what do you got up your sleeve? You're too nice, man.
Yeah, something's amiss here.
Yeah, something's wrong here. So he sits me down in a chair and he goes, so, what'd you think about the last time you did this? And I was like, you know what? Am I just going to lie or just be blunt? I said, fuck, I'll be blunt. I said, I didn't like it. I didn't like it a lot. And he goes, yeah. He goes, what? And I said, I give my reason. I said, didn't like it. Didn't like the way the guy talked to me. Didn't like the treatment. Wasn't necessary, Felt it was kind of like combative, blah, blah, blah. He goes, okay. He goes, I understand. He goes, let me ask you something. I go, what? He goes, when you went home that day, I said, yeah. He goes, did you go to polygraph.org? I was like, son of a bitch, right?
They were watching.
I said, how the fuck did he know that? And I was like, looking at him, I said, do I lie? I said, remember where you're at, Comstock. He says, do I lie? I said, yeah. Like, yeah, that's right. I went there. Yeah, so what? Right, that's all I could do.
Yeah.
He goes, good, because I don't blame you. He goes, I mean, why would you go to it? He goes, why would you take a test without studying, right? I'm like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Now, did he really watch me? I don't know. He goes, you know what? You're the first guy of the last 10 who would actually admit that. So congratulations. Really? I go, oh, wow, okay. I guess I'm not the only guy that does that, right? Yeah. So, I don't know if that was just a lucky guess on himself, but I about shit in my pants when he said it, like, holy cow. And then he even hooked me up, right? He goes, you had a little problem on one of the questions last time. And I'm like, yeah, okay, go ahead. Hook me up. He goes, no, we don't hook you up. And he asked me the question, and I give him the answer. He goes, that's it? I go, yeah, that's it, pretty much. He goes, okay, that's good. You're good, you're done.
Welcome to the team.
Like, how much fucking money did you spend just now to fucking do all this to get me here?
Yeah.
We could have done this like over the fucking Zoom call or something, right? Yeah. I don't think they had Zoom back then. I don't know. But anyways, yeah, it was a very interesting experience, man. I heard the first polygrapher, I don't know if it's true, and I heard he went out to go collect some mail from his mailbox one morning. Somebody tried to kill him, tried to run him over in the car, which surprised me. That attitude, yeah. I don't know if it was part of the program or that's just, I don't, just don't know, man.
Same thing with Delta, where it's like, we're gonna fuck with your head a little bit, see if you can get it.
Yeah. But it was interesting.
Let me jump into then describing this group and, kind of the team you're on. I guess what kind of operations were you looking at going into this unit, and, how much is that separating from your previous experience, obviously working with Delta, to the level that you're able to speak to?
Yeah. You ever watch Apocalypse Now?
Yep.
Colonel Kurtz up the river? Mm-hmm. That was me. That was us. Literally, man. That was the experience. Mm-hmm. I would go down range. There were times I was by myself, and I had my own army with me, basically, and I could literally go, hey, I'm taking the boys out tonight. I'm going to do this. Be back tomorrow. Okay. Be safe. Mm-hmm. Roger that. And I had that kind of autonomy. Only thing I had to remember why I was there, and the reason I was there to help further United States government's objectives to win the global war on terrorism, right? and stay within the left and right, moral and ethical limits. Don't hurt innocent people. Get the job done. But remember what the goal is at the end of the day, is to win this war, and do it sanely, legally, ethically, morally, but get it done, And so, yeah, it was a great experience. I had a great experience doing that kind of work. I had total autonomy, got paid well, took a lot of chances. In fact, somebody told me one time, he goes, "You know why we get paid all this money?" I go, "Why?" He goes, "It's not because of what we do, because really we don't do that much." He goes, we don't get paid for what we do. We get getting paid for what we might be asked to do." I go, "Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it, because what we might be asked to do one day it's priceless, It's like, it's a one-shot deal. So, it's a good experience, It's nice to be entrusted to go out and, without any adult supervision, do what needs to be done. You had the force to do it with. You had the support, the weapons, logistics, everything you needed to get the job done. And if you didn't, you could ask for it and get it, but get the job done. And that was the greatest experience ever, being able to go out there. Man, there were times I was in overseas where, there's a 2-man rule. You can't go out the door or out the gate without another American with you. That's the rule, right? But I got to a point where my Afghans were so loyal to me, and that there were times I'd go out for days by myself with these guys, and hitting targets and stuff. So, really, really, very satisfying experience, because on one hand, you've got like total freedom, man, and autonomy, but you also have total freedom and autonomy to be killed, It's like it go either way for you, but it's a kind of, it's a very liberating feeling, like, here I am, I got 40 pipe hitters with me, and we can go take out dudes wherever, get the job done,
Are you guys usually operating with like Delta, like unit and dev crew guys, or is usually just?
No, almost always alone. Since I left the military, even now, I operate for the most part by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I work with 2 or 3 other guys. And when I say work, I mean like we're doing things. We're doing good things to bad people, and sometimes I'm doing good things for good people. But I don't work with other people. I don't hire myself out to other companies and become I don't become a pipe hitter for other people. I will have other companies hire me for a job. But when they hire me, it's all under my control, not their control.
Mm-hmm.
You need a job, pay me this much money, I'll go manage it. I'll come back and give you what you want, right? You're not telling me what to do. So, yeah, ever since I left the military, I've never really worked for anybody as an employee, except one time in COVID. When COVID happened, I went back to Florida for a minute. Our company got decimated in Indonesia. And then, I have literally 3 homes, 3 families, 3 countries to support. And we took a beating like everybody else. And so, but I still was doing okay. I had a lot of money coming in for, my royalties and other things I've done in the past. But so I ended up working for a friend of mine. He had a construction company in Panama City Beach, big construction company, big contracts, and he couldn't find anybody to work for him because they're getting free money from the government. They're getting more money from the government than he could possibly pay them to work. So why would you go out and do construction work, right?
Everyone also thinks it's like, who knows what's happening next. So
yeah, so he's like, "Hey, dude, I got this big project. I got to get this contract done. It's worth a lot of money. It's massive." He goes, "I can't get any help. You want to help me?" So yeah, I ain't got nothing else to do but hang around here, right? So I'm stuck. So I ended up being a construction worker for like 6 months on Panama City Beach, literally building a deck, 36,000 square foot deck on the back of a resort on the beach, man. So I'm in the sunlight looking at G-string bikinis and driving nails and pouring. Yeah. Oh my God, dude. Man, my kidneys shut down one day. I got so dehydrated out there. It was hell, man. Yeah, construction work. Got a lot of respect for construction workers,
Oh,
man.
they
Holy-
grind, man. Especially talking martial arts. If you ever get
Ooh.
jujitsu with a guy that was doing construction,
Yeah,
you just that grip strength's like
yeah,
nothing else.
that's some hard work, man. Hats off to those guys, man. And they're good guys, man. I mean, and the funny part, they were either veterans or convicts.
Yeah.
Those are the guys doing the work, man.
Yeah,
Veterans and
yeah.
convicts, you know. But we all got along, had a good time. You know, it was helped my friend. I made a little bit of money, gave me something to do, you know, and got this thing over the finish line. But the best part is that most of my adult life since I left the military, I've been sovereign. I self-employed, do my own thing as a contractor. I work when I want to.
So what do you think people don't understand about the idea of a mercenary too? And we're going to jump into Spear here a little bit, where a lot of times the media loves to run with narratives, but I asked Danny this as well, where it's just, you know, people think mercenary, they get this picture in their head. Like, what do you think the proper definition of what a mercenary is?
Yeah, you know, so prostitutions and actually a mercenary is what's called, used to be called a privateer, right?
Mhm.
Prostitution, privateers, you know, two oldest professions in the world. But they both have a purpose and a place, I think. So a mercenary, you know, what is a mercenary? So it's got kind of a stigma attached to it. You know, when you think mercenary, you think about some grubby little fat dude that's, you know, can't make it anywhere else. He's a criminal and he's hired gun. A mercenary is nothing more than a professional soldier, if you will, that is hired. I like to think by foreign governments to carry out some type of a task that they can't do themselves. So when for example, I got tasked with with Spear Operations Group, we were professionals, and if you saw my BBC documentary, right, they try to paint a different. What they try to do is compare us to the Wagner Group, right, the Russian mercenaries. Now those guys are all convicts, ex-convicts, right? They're knuckle draggers, right? And basically they had a choice. You could stay in prison, die in prison, or you could put on his uniform and go on the battlefield and take your chances out there and fight on our behalf, right? Okay, those are guys who are not specialized. The guys I work with are specialized. They're professional soldiers, families, children, guys like me, right? They're not knuckleheads. They're not meatheads. They're not, you know, they're guys with integrity. They're specialists in what they do. And so government A goes, you know what? I need some specialists that can do this. We don't have it in our ranks. So we'll subcontract out. So what they're foreigners, we'll bring you in to do this job.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I look at it, right? And that's why I kind of try to explain to BBC. Of course, they really edited the hell out of that.
Yeah, can we jump
interview.
into that? Because we were talking about this before, and
Yeah.
you know, like I said, some may have seen the documentary, some may have not. So I guess we'll backtrack a bit and kind of go into what Spear was and what was happening. But in general, that's kind of what stemmed from this question. It was crazy seeing that and being how distorted they pushed the story, the narrative, and you know, a lot of different stuff with that. And we'll highlight more in a sec. But in general, it painted a very different picture than what was actually happening on the ground. So yeah, I guess backtracking, starting with like, what was Spear Operation Group, and you know, going into your time in Yemen, like when did that start rolling there?
Yeah. So, so I ended up working for a company called Black Sand. And the reason I worked for Black Sand, let me back up just a little bit more. So around circa 2011, I sold another one of my companies to another company. And, but I was still running my company as a vertical under theirs. And after a couple of years running my company under theirs, the ownership mismanaged the company. They were way outside their skill set. What I mean by that is they were used to working with IT guys, not security consultant guys. And they thought, well, we don't pay you guys until we get receivables from the client. That's usually 60 days plus. I said, no, when it comes to security contractors, they want their money in 30 days, right? And so anyway, the whole thing collapsed. Company went under, and suddenly, you know, I lost, you know, I was making about $25,000 a month just off of that alone in my home, plus, you know, royalties from the sale of the company. And at the same time, I was now in Hollywood making movies and involved in stuff like that. But, the old saying, the more you make, the more you spend, right? Well, so, I had quite a huge debt. And so I luckily got a call from somebody. I go, hey, we're looking for, guys for a bodyguard detail in Hong Kong, right? And so, and the guy that was running the company, one of them was a plank holder from Delta Force, one of the original guys, right? I know him really well. So he hired me, and Abraham Golan was his partner as well. So we were both partners of this company. So that's how I got on board with them. Ended up going over there and becoming a detail leader for their this security detail for this multi-billionaire investment banker. So I lived in Hong Kong for a while. That's actually where I met my wife. And then that all ended. Ultimately, my wife went back to Indonesia. She was my girlfriend then. And then I did what dudes do, right? I followed my wife to Indonesia, my girlfriend in Indonesia. and so we were there for a while. And then I was still in the books with Black Sand. So they gave me a retainer because they wanted me to work for them for some other projects. And then, so I did. I traveled around the world, South Africa, Mexico, different places doing these different things. And then, so interesting story, Abraham has been maligned quite a bit, as the head of Spear Operations Group, but he's actually a really good guy. This guy is a patriot, a real patriot, and he really believes in America. And I've had personal conversations with him, and he's like really, he's hardcore American. But the funny part is he's actually not from America. He's Hungarian and he's Jewish, right? And so he got it to the United States on a special invitation visa because of his skills and things like that. So anyways, got along really well with this guy. He was the guy that either liked you or he didn't, and he let you know right up front, you either in or you're out. But luckily for me, I got along well with the guy. And so we're in South Africa doing a project, and one night me and him are sitting around a swimming pool, pretty late, just me and him. And he starts asking me some questions, Comstock, why do you do all these different things? Sometimes you're out teaching firearms training, you're doing acting, you're doing security. He goes, why don't you just focus on one thing you're good at, like security? Because you can make a lot of money if you just do that. And I'm like, well, Abraham, I said, sounds good, but, I'm kind of a journeyman because, I got a lot of ex-wives and kids that I got to pay for, right? And I'm going through a bad divorce right now, right? So, I got to go where I get the money. And he made me an offer, right? I wasn't asking for nothing. I was just answering this question. And he goes, if I gave you $50,000 right now, cash, he goes, would that help you? I go, yeah, it'd be nice, but I'm not taking it. I said, that's not how I operate. I don't need your money. And he goes, listen, people gave me money and my partner money when we needed it. Veterans help veterans. And he goes, I'll give it to you. He goes, you don't owe me nothing. You can take the money and then tell me to screw off. I goes, I don't care. He goes, I just want to do something for you and give you a hand up, just like me. I know his story, right? It's pretty good. It's pretty interesting. But I was like, no, I'm not not interested. That's not what I do, no. And so we had a little bit of a spat around the pool. He was a little upset because I wouldn't take the money, but I just feel good with that idea. So we go off separate ways, go to our rooms that night. Next morning, I get up early, go down and meet this partner. His name's Don. And Don's like, yeah, hey, by the way, Abraham already left this morning. I didn't know he's leaving. Yeah, we didn't know he just left. He goes, but by the way, just let you know, he just put, deposited a bunch of money in your account. Son of a bitch, right? So I got a little pissed about it, right? And he's like, no, he goes, it's okay. He goes, that's what we do, guys have helped us. We help others, and that's what we do, right? Veterans, right? And so I really don't need the help, but, and they weren't going to take the money back. I'm like, it's yours now, right? And so I said, all right, I tell you what. I said, you just consider this money paid forward. I said, that's it. If you need me in the future for something, you just call me. You've already paid me. Fair enough? Okay. So a year goes by, and then I get this call from Abraham, and I'm flying back from Asia back to Florida, and he's like, hey, I need to talk to you, man. I got, this security project, and what he doesn't realize is, and I'm trying to explain to him, I was like, well, I started my own security business, and conflict of interest. I want to do my own thing now. I want to run my own business, right? Yeah. Right. And so He goes, I really need to talk to you. So I get on a plane, I fly back to Florida, and I'm not going to call him back. I'm just like thinking that. He calls me again, and I'm trying to explain to him, and he goes, listen, he goes, it's really important I talk to you, but I can't talk to you on the phone. He goes, I tell you what, I'm going to fly you to San Diego. I'm going to pay you $6,000 for 3 hours of your time. He goes, I just want you to hear me out. All right, that's it. I said, you're going to fly me to San Diego, pay me $6,000 for 3 hours of my time. Yes. I said, all right, must be important. So he does. And sure enough, I show up at the airport. He's leaning out on his Porsche outside waiting for me, hands me an envelope, $6,000. He goes, get in, bitch. And we drive off to his house. And later on that night, we link up, me, him, and his partner, Isaac, and his wife were having dinner. And now they're going to explain to me what this project's about, right? The Spear Operations Group. That's their company they formed. And essentially, they had a contract with the Emirates, particularly the MOD. Mohammed Dalan was the MOD for Abu Dhabi, right? So now the funny part about, if you look at the history of Mohammed Dalan, he's been around for a while. He was part of like the Palestinian, not Liberation Front, but like a youth Palestinian group, right? He was actually, he was a rebel and up and coming rebel. So him and Abraham were actually enemies at one time, tried to kill each other off. In fact, we're killing each other's bodyguards off. And Mohammed Dalan's been implicated in a lot of things, the assassination, I think, of Arafat, a lot of things, right? So, but he was also contracted by the CIA, and then CIA dropped him because I think there's some issues with money. I don't know. Backstory is the backstory. But all I know is these two guys, at one time, were arch enemies, and now they're lovebirds, right? And so the mission is, Abraham got the tasking that, hey, if you take this contract, I need you to go out and take care of all these terrorists and these bad guys. And it was a huge contract, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Okay, let me just put it like that. And it was big. And the target list was relatively long, and it spanned over 3 countries. And so he's telling me what the mission is. Sounds pretty exciting. Also sounds kind of crazy. And so when is this thing going to go? He goes, we need to leave in about 5 days. 5 days? I just got back from Indonesia. And I said, I need to go back to Indonesia because, I got my girlfriend there and, expect to come back. I got stuff to do there. Yeah. And so he goes, you in or not? You in or not? I was like, man. I said, dude, I said, look, man. I said, why don't you go do the first one without me and let me go over and regroup for a second and then I'll join up with you. He goes, no. He goes, if I don't have you on the first one, I don't need you on any of them. Like, holy shit, man. And he takes out $40,000 cash and throws it on the table. He goes, there you go. That's your sign-up bonus. You can take that right now. You going to go? I said, I'll do it. I said, but I'm going to fly home right now, catch the first thing smoking in Indonesia, kiss my girlfriend goodbye, let her know what's going on. Well, I'm going to lie to her. I'm not going to tell her what we're actually going to do. So I'm going to tell her I got a project I got to go work on, right? And get some stuff. And then I'll meet you in New York in 5 days. He goes, fine, just be there in 5 days. Okay, so I do it, right? I go back and kiss her goodbye, lie to her about some shit, right? That I'm going to go do something. And then I end up in New York. Landed in New York, and then that night I go to a hotel. I have to meet him and the group, the team, at around 10 o'clock that night in a certain room. And it's going to be Legionnaires, a couple other guys, total of 11-man strike team. And so I show up at the hotel, get checked in. I go down to the bar lounge area. I'm kind of eating some food, and I notice these dudes walking around that looked like they had this military swagger to them. You could just tell guys that are military, special ops, they just have this certain... Yeah,
Dan highlighted, they got the outfit, the vibe.
Well, even if it's not the outfit, it's just the swagger, the look, the vibe, right? Yeah. He's right. There's something you can just tell.
Yeah.
You can just tell it. I can tell a cop from a soldier. I can just tell, And so I'm seeing these guys walking around, and I'm thinking, yeah, fucking sounds like a bunch of Frenchy dudes. So might be them. So 10 o'clock, we go up to the room. They're all in there. And it was kind of like a scene out of, what was it called? Ronin, right? With Robert De Niro. the boathouse, so who's who, right? What color is the boathouse? And we walk into the room and everybody's lined up. And then Abraham's like, so the other guys didn't know what the mission was. He goes, okay, here's the mission. He goes, this is what we're going to be doing. He goes, blah, 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 blah. It's going to be very dangerous. And he goes, so I gave everybody $20,000. He goes, you're free to keep the money and go. If you don't want to do this, no harm, no foul. Or, let me know if you want to stay. So nobody left. He goes, okay, great. Everybody wants to stay. So he goes, well, this is what we're going to do. He goes, and he points at me. He goes, that guy right there is in charge of everything. Everything. I'm like, what the fuck? Right. So I'm literally, yeah, me. I'm like, so, and so he's entrusted me to run the operations, everything. Right. So I'm it. It's okay. And, respect because, he knew his limitations. And so he needed a guy that could get this done. And so that's why he was insistent that I be a part of this. Now, the funny story is his partner was a SEAL. And early on, when we had the conversation out in San Diego, I was kind of sitting on the fence, and he invited me into his office, just me and him, not his partner. And he goes, listen, he goes, that guy, he goes, he smokes, he drinks, snorts, whatever he does, right? He goes, he's really good with working with clients, he's a good face of the company in that respect. He goes, but I need a guy that knows what the hell he's doing on the ground. And I said, okay, I'm all in. He goes, so you'll be basically my advisor, right? You advise me and him on everything. So that's kind of how I got on board with it. And so we meet that night. We're all on board. Next instructions were tomorrow tomorrow night. So the night in 24 hours, the next night, we would get on a bus, vans, and make sure you have your tactical uniforms on, right? Whatever you're going to be wearing in the field. And then bag and baggage, we're going to get on these vans, and we're going to go to Teterboro private airport, and we're going to get on G5. So I was kind of wondering, why are we wearing our uniforms, right? It's like, you look like a bunch of goons wearing freaking tactical uniforms. Yeah. I'm going to go to Teterboro, which is a business airport, right? And I didn't question it, but I figured he had a good reason for it, right? So I trusted him that he's got a reason for it. Don't need to question him on that one. And I know what it was. We were being watched. We were already being watched by U.S. government, right? And he wanted to make it obvious that we're not trying to hide nothing. And one of the reasons was because once we got to the airport, we loaded on a G5. We loaded up our rucksacks, our tactical kit, food and water. What we did not load up was weapons, right? That's the rub right there, right? ITARs. That would have been a problem. So because we didn't get the weapons in the U.S., we actually got them over there. So that's how it started. We flew on G5 all over the planet, refuel stops, and pilots had no idea where we were really going. They thought we were going to one place, and then mid-flight, handed a map and goes, see that spot right there? There's a dirt airstrip in this desert, and that's where you're going to land this airplane.
Like, all right.
It's like, whatever you want, sir.
Yeah, we're in the air.
Whatever you want to do, sir. And that's what we did. We landed in an unnamed dirt strip out in the middle of the desert. And nothing was there, nothing but a C-130. So we land, and it's probably about 10 o'clock at night, I think, something like that. Maybe 8 o'clock, something right around. It's dark. And open the doors, get out, grab our bags, and the C-130 sitting across the runway, engines running, ramp is down, and there's nothing else out there, just a C-130. There's one guy standing in the ramp. He's an intel officer for the Emiratis. He was a colonel. And so we walk over, he's got a clipboard, and he's checking off our names and stuff. We load up on the back of the ramp, the C-130, get in the seats, close the ramp, fly away for about 4 hours, and we end up flying to Djibouti. So we land in Djibouti, and literally plane stops, ramps down. We've got a CH-47, two Apache helicopters, engines running, rotors turning, sitting there waiting for us. So we transload into the CH-47, we lift off, and we fly across the sea to Aden. And we land at a Emirati forward operating base, right, sandbagged in. So now it's about 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that. We land and unload, and they had built a cantonment area for us with inside this fob, way off, out of sight, out of mind, in the corner somewhere, right? So it was built up with HESCOs. They had put a couple of GP medium tents in there, a couple other things. But basically, we're going to be sequestered away, kind of out of sight, out of mind. And so we could do all our planning stuff back there. So I remember at that point, we're loading up, and I look at the colonel. I said, "Hey, sir," I said, "we're expecting weapons, all those things. When I can expect to have those." He goes, "They're on the way right now, right? So they're in trucks. So go over there, drop your shit, and then trucks will be here in a minute." So we did. We dumped our stuff. Vehicles pull up, and open the back of these trucks, and there's nothing but garbage in the back of these trucks. Like, what the shit is this, right? They literally went down and bought all our weapons at the local bazaar. I mean, we had just AK-47s, like 30-year-old Chi-Coms, Dishkas without freaking tripods, PCAMs without belts, just a hodgepodge of stuff. And I look at them, and then the ammo, and I'm doing so I'm inventorying everything because, when I was in Special Forces, I was a light and heavy weapons sergeant. And so I'm trying to sort everything out, catalog everything we got here, trying to inventory, figure out what we got, what do we need. And we're supposed to have brand new weapons, brand new U.S. made stuff, right? M4s, all the good shit.
Yeah, the real
right?
stuff.
And he was tasked to get us all that, plus gear, everything. None of that came. In fact, the only weapons he had is what he bought at the bazaar. And I'm thinking, what did you do with that $100,000, asshole? Right? Or whatever the amount was, a huge amount. And he probably pocketed it and bought us some garbage, right? And thank God I brought my own uniform and stuff because I was told I don't need anything. Everything will be provided, brand new. And it was not true. So after a while, inventorying everything, I realized we're short on everything. So I walk up to him and go, "Hey, sir," still call him sir. I said, we don't have. I said, you bought me all this. You brought me a bunch of AKs with no magazines. You brought me PCAMs with no belts. You brought me Dishcom heavy barrel machine guns with no tripods. You bought me this, that, and that. I said, you just bought me shit, garbage. What am I supposed to do with this? And I could tell he didn't like it because he didn't like the fact that we were there. Because he didn't like the fact that we had to bring in foreigners. His country had to bring in foreigners to do it, right? So he was like, "So what you're telling me is you cannot do the job." Right, that's what he wanted me. He wanted me to go, "Yeah, that's right." So he could go back and say, "They can't do the job, sir." Right, that's what he's trying to do. Right, he's a little attitude. And he go, "No," I said, "That's not what I said. I said I can do the job. If I have to go and beat the shit out of a dude with a fucking AK-47 like a baseball bat, I get the job done." I said, "But I'd rather launch bullets at the guy, right?" And so, so he's like, "Okay, give me a list of things you're missing." And I said, "Here it is, right? It's stuff we need." He goes, "I'll work on it, right?" So he did. He got most of it back that we needed, but it's all old stuff, man. Just rickety stuff. And then we started the planning processes, right? So now we got another problem. It's like, okay, how do we know where the targets are? Because how do we go find them, right? We can't go out the gate, us looking for them. We're a bunch of white dudes, right? And so we had one Moroccan with us. He's a Muslim, French Foreign Legionnaire, but so we can't leave the gates, go looking for him. Somebody's got to tell us where this guy's at. So we figured that out, how to do all that. Got to sort it out. And then I think within about 12 days, our human source located the target, which is out there on BBC. Everybody knows who it is now. A guy named Ansaf Mayu. He was the head of the Al-Islah political party, which is an extension of the Muslim Brotherhood. It's basically one of their arms, right? And very cagey guy. Excuse me. Trained pretty well, I think, at streetcraft. He never slept in the same place twice. He had armed motorcade with him all the time. When I say motorcade, it was trucks. But he had some history behind him. Everything that we read on the guy. I don't believe he's actually Muslim. I don't believe he's Arab. I believe he was from India. We also have reason to believe he's a pedophile, among other things. But like I said, very cagey guy, and we had a hard time tracking him down.
Yeah, as you were saying, he was rotating it. This is something they didn't really cover, but he was notably rotating his pattern of life. Which is like, if you're doing that, then you have...
Yeah.
You can pick most politicians are not that stringent on rotating their pattern of life like that, which means there's some type of...
Yeah, he was using countermeasures to make sure he doesn't get hit. And probably a good reason. I mean, it is Yemen. Oh my God, man, it was a war-torn country. You literally had Al-Qaeda Arabic Peninsula, ACAP. You had ISIS. You had the Houthis there. You had you had the resistance there. You had about and the Muslim Brotherhood there, right? So the Yemenis were resistance. They were actually the good guys, but they're getting their ass handed to them. And then you had the Muslim Brotherhood building barracks for Al Qaeda. I've got all that on video, right? So you saw the BBC thing, Muslim Brotherhood, they're good guys. No, they're not. They're financing Al Qaeda, okay? And they're financing this other guy, right? So, don't tell me the Muslim Brotherhood, they're nice.
The discussion we were having was BBC was trying to frame it as just the big picture item while you're highlighting there's so many of these direct connection and outlets that were and still are currently classified as terrorist organizations.
If you look at their history, they go back to 1926 or something like that, right? That's when they actually started. Back in the 50s is when they were really radical, sniping people, killing people, assassinating people. Then they tried that BS in Egypt. This is why Egypt considers them a terrorist organization. Jordan, many countries actually consider it a terrorist organization, including
just themselves,
in Europe, right? And so, I've got firsthand knowledge. I've seen what they're doing, what they're financing, and those types of things. So Al-Islam political party is kind of like the political face of the company, the organization. Al-Qaeda was their action arm, and there was a lot of Al-Qaeda there. And of course, we had ISIS there. They were kind of not really related. ISIS had their own thing going on. And of course, the Houthis, Iranian-backed rebels that were fighting with the Saudis. But so this guy was number one on the list. And what was interesting is as we went down the list, there was another guy in there. He was the mastermind behind the USS Cole bombing, and he was in the area. And he was running a madrasa, right? And he was actually running a pipeline for ISIS fighters going to Syria, right? So they're coming through him, bombing, and then he sent them on. And so his home was literally across the street from the madrasa, completely unguarded. And we saw that. And me and a couple of the Americans were like, no, this guy's got to go first. This guy's got to go first, right? So we told the client, what we want to do. And he goes, no. He goes, I'm the client. I'm paying. He goes, I want this guy, number one, out first. And he has reasons for it, right? He told us why. And the guy's a shitbird. I don't care what anybody says. And so he was number one, irrespective of number 7. So we figured out we'll get to him eventually. So we're doing all the planning, but we're like, how do we catch this guy? Because he's cagey. We can't really locate him. We don't know where he stays in one place. We were going to ambush him at the airport one time. We had that set up. Then he didn't show up for that. Then we were going to run him down on a motorcycle, basically run right alongside of his vehicle and drop an IED into his vehicle with him. So we had about 7 contingency plans ready to go. And then one night around 9 o'clock, our human source goes, hey, I got him. PID'd. He's in this office right here, blah, 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 downtown Aden. He's in there right now, got eyes on. And so we had a drone up also watching, right? So we got a drone on, eyes on, human on. We're like, okay, that's it. So we jump into the vehicles with all our gear, and we decided it's not going to be the entire team is going to do this. So we decided it's going to just be me, Abraham, and the 2 other Americans, 2 SEALs, right? And we had the driver was actually an Emirati Special Forces major. Now, he wanted to come along, right? And we're like, no, plausible denial, but you're a soldier for them, no. And he's like, no, I want to, So anyways, we agreed to let him drive the car, but he said, you don't get no guns. You're just a driver. You just drive us and drop us off, right? And so he's the only guy that got shot, by the way. As soon as he got out of the car without a gun, he's the first guy to get shot. So, but he lived. So we decided the rest of the element would act as a QRF, quick reaction force, and stay back about a half a kilometer away. So we go rolling in, really dark, dingy night, no lights, but people sitting on the corners and stoops drinking, chai and smoking, and Al-Qaeda everywhere, man. And you couldn't drive very fast, like 3 to 5 miles an hour. I remember one time we kind of got stopped, and I got literally Al-Qaeda trying to look into the tinted windows, and he's doing this. And it was upper armored level 7 Land Cruiser. So I wasn't too worried about anything, just as long as he didn't recognize it. And it was dark, so he couldn't see nothing anyways, right? But that's how close they were. And they had checkpoints everywhere. And so we continue on down the road. Now we had an MRAP to our front about 100 yards, an MRAP to our rear 100 yards. But they're not part of the operation, right? Because the Emiratis didn't want actively participate. They want plausible deniability. But we're like, look, man, if something goes south, we need some type of a QRF, right? Like an armored vehicle to get into. And so they agreed to provide the vehicles for us to run to if we needed them, you know? And it turns out that's exactly what we use them for. So, we're getting updated intel reports. Yeah, he's still in there, all in there. He had 2 bodyguards that would usually post themselves. If they went inside, they'd post themselves right behind the doors. He had an assistant, an aide that was with him. Anyways, so we end up pulling up. We jump out of the vehicles, and it's game on. Shooting starts right away. My job is to run across the street and basically blow up the door and the office. It's a very small office, not very big. And I had built basically the mother of all claymores is what I built. I had about 12 pounds of C4. I managed to pack it all into an ammo can, in around the ammo can, prime it from the back. And my goal was it was a directional charge. I put steel plates in the front that I cut out of MRAP. And so basically it was a giant claymore. And I'm just going to launch it right through these steel doors in the front. So the doors become missiles. This is going to be bad, right? This is going to be a big explosion. Nothing's going to survive that. And so I run across the street, firefights on. This was some weird stuff started happening. So Abraham and Isaac were supposed to follow me across the street and pull security for me. And Abraham just takes off and starts running down the street the other way. Like, where the hell is he going? Run down the street shooting people. Like, okay. And I'm at the door, and Isaac never left the vehicle, right? He stood behind the door just shooting. And he's supposed to be here with me. So I'm alone at the breach point, right? So that was a little nerve-wracking because I'm like, I got my weapon slung to my side. I got my hands full trying to put the charge up. I actually was trying to open the doors. I'm going to open the doors, I had a couple of French hand grenades, throw those in there, and then come in shooting. But they had locked the door, right? So the door was locked from the inside, not from the outside. So they said that he wasn't there. He may have left 10 minutes earlier, according to him, but there were still people inside there. And the reason I know that because his aide got on, was on the news the next day, all wrapped up in bandages and stuff, going, ha, 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 you didn't get him, right? And so, but, he got it. And so I'm pretty sure his guards probably got vaporized too. But so I couldn't get in. So I said, well, I'll just blow the door like I planned, just launch this whole thing in. And so that's what I did. So I had 20-second fuse igniter on it. So I had 20 seconds for that to go off. And then I had also put a charge in the back of the Land Cruiser over the gas tank. And what I wanted to do is destroy that vehicle that we came in with. Brand new $300,000, $400,000 Land Cruiser, up armored level 7. And they wanted to leave the car behind. I wasn't quite sure why we wanted to leave the car behind, but they wanted to leave the car behind, and probably for plausible deniability, which actually kind of worked because everybody thinks it was a car bomb. It wasn't a car bomb. The explosion was me destroying the vehicle so they couldn't have it. And I made a charge. I made it myself an improvised explosive, but basically I built a charge with gasoline, coffee grounds, and explosives, and set it up so they would blow up in the back of the car above the gas tank and burn the car down to the ground. And it did. It literally melted it to nothing, man. And you can see it there's an extended video. It's not out there, but I have the extended video. You can see this thing catch on fire. It's a big, gigantic bonfire after that. But so that happens. I can't get back to the vehicle to pull the fuse igniter because now there's a firefight going on, and I got to run to this other MRAP, and that means I got to run into the beaten zone. So I opted to go north to the other vehicle, and the SEAL that was with me, he was actually on a Mag 58. He knew that if I don't come over there, all he's got to do is pull the fuse igniters for the charge inside the vehicle, and then he could leave also. So that's exactly what happened. He pulled the charge, he jumped in the other MRAP, and we left. And as soon as we left, everybody just started coming in, and hordes of people started showing up. But the first charge went off was my door charge, and then probably within 15 seconds, 20 seconds after that is when the vehicle charge went off. And so we destroyed the vehicle and got out of there. And so how do we get the drone footage? Which is interesting because we were all given rank. So this is the catch, right? So was it legal or not? And yes, it's legal for an American citizen to join a foreign military as long as it's not North Koreans or Russians, but it's the Emiratis, and they did. They assigned us rank, so everybody had rank. So we're technically soldiers in their military, right? Mm-hmm. And so the weirdest part was Abraham. Now here's a Jewish guy. He's got the rank of full bird colonel. He's the rankingest officer on this Emirati military base, right, of Arabs.
How that works.
And so he goes into where the drone pilot's sitting. He goes, I want a copy of that drone footage right now on a thumb drive. Yes, sir. Gives it to him. And he takes it and he hands us all a copy. And I go, what's this for? He goes, it's drone footage. It's insurance. I go, why? He goes, because it has the MRAPs are in the footage. It shows that we weren't a bunch of dudes in a car going out shooting people up.
Just showing up.
We had the Emiratis with us. Like, that's freaking smart, man. He's a smart guy. And that's how that got out, because the SEAL actually leaked that information out, right? His partner, who turned out to be a total whatever. I'm not going to talk about that guy right now, but didn't do well. He's the reason I actually left. I literally, had enough the BS that was going on, and on a very personal. It'll be in my book. In fact, it's coming out in about 30 days. I've got the book coming out, Running Razor's Edge, and it goes into more detail what happened. But
we're gonna get you back out here for that.
Yeah, the shenanigans inside the, in the camp. There were two conflicts. There was a conflict outside the wire, and there's the inner conflict, right, inside the camp. That was, that's a story in and of itself, man. A lot of lessons learned, a lot of leadership lessons there. Hell, this might be a good leadership book for people to read. But how leadership's important, and treating people right, treating your soldiers right, those types of things. But anyways, I ended up, was the mission successful? I would argue he was successful up to the point that we didn't kill the target. He did get away, but we didn't know that. It wasn't. It was a miss, not because of us. I think the human guy might have lied to us, because he said he had eyes on the whole time. He never saw him leave. Like, that don't make sense. Then how did he leave, right? So I think also what might have happened
Clearly
is
knew something was up.
Either that, or he actually did survive the blast, because his other guys didn't, right? The guy on the bandages on Ray, so maybe he got lucky. I don't know. But he immediately knew his shit's in the wind, so he fled to Saudi Arabia, which is interesting too, because the Saudis didn't like him. The Saudis wanted him too. It's like, why would he run to Saudi Arabia? And they've been hiding him. So a lot of weird stuff, man, right? In war and politics, it's
the
like
Middle East, yeah. Because Saudi hates UAE because they're both competing for who's top dog. They both hate Iran.
It was nuts, man. The whole experience was nuts. But we did a lot of other ops. We started running around doing different things. Like I said, just very interesting place, very dangerous place. And unfortunately, we didn't get to take out the coal bomber. But I literally ended up walking out of the desert with another SEAL. I just, things kind of went, after Abraham left, he left the other guy in charge, and things just didn't go the way they should have. And so I didn't want no more of it. And I just literally walked out of the desert with him, got on an airplane, military airplane, transport, found our way back to Yemen, Emirates, New York, and just got out of Dodge. So.
Let me ask, we were talking about this BBC documentary, and again, in some ways it was good because, they did like deep dive coverage, and there was, an observation from you guys. But the thing that, we're talking about this offline, the framing is what I had a problem with, because the way they were trying to.
Yeah.
And I see this with a lot of other, media and news sources. This is why, like, having you come on for talking, for fucking hours today, is we get a deep dive. We get to understand who you are, what you were doing, why you were there, what the actual operation looked like, while they're only covering this in, quick 10 minutes or something. Why do you think there is such a push by some of these people to demonize mercenaries in a lot of different ways for something they don't really understand?
Yeah. So the people that are really demonizing us are from the Middle East, So they're mad because, they always want to implicate the Americans. So when she interviewed me on BBC, she kept, because I had brought the Muslim Brotherhood. She goes, well, the Muslim Brotherhood is not a terrorist organization. Yes, they are. No, they're not. Yes, they are. No, they are. Yes, they are. She goes, the U.S. government doesn't think they're a terrorist organization. Actually, Trump wanted to put them on that list, along with Ted Cruz and others. But for some reason, the Democrats don't want to do that, right? Think about that for a minute. The Democrats don't want to do that. The Democrats are the ones that let all the terrorists cross the border. Now, there's many that have come into our borders because they're looking for me. All right, that's a fact. So, they are literally allowing this. And so it's no surprise they didn't put him on the list. And what she cut out of the interview, she didn't air it, is she kept emphasizing the U.S. doesn't think they're a terrorist organization. And I told her, I said, you know what? It doesn't matter, because I wasn't working for the United States government. I was working for the Emirati government, and they think they're a terrorist organization. She conveniently cut that out, right? Because what she was trying to do is try to form a nexus between USG, Emirates, using Americans to go after Arabs, right? That was the play. Yeah. And so she conveniently cut out the truth, right? That, hey, remember, I'm not working for the Americans, I'm working for the Emiratis, and they think they're a terrorist organization, which we know they are. They fund it. They were over there funding Al Qaeda. I've got video of the barracks they built them. Why do I know that? Because we were going to actually go in there to go get this guy that we wanted, because he was bedding down in there. So it's an information war, right? Is what it comes down to. So then it's like, oh my God, they hired Americans to come in and kill Muslims, well, hey, idiots, if you're listening, there were Muslims on the team, right? So there were Muslims on the team, okay? And did I mention earlier, my wife is Muslim? It ain't about Muslims. I'm an equal opportunity killer. I kill Christians just as fast as I kill a Muslim. I kill bad people, man. That's what it comes down to. But they have an agenda. They got an axe to grind, and they'll try to politicize anything they can to their advantage, their narrative, and make it support their narrative. Like, and it's just a bunch of lies. And it's the same thing. It's naive people, gullible people, just willing to listen to anything and believe it, and not really analyze it. Just like what's going on in our country right now, right? The world is full of useful idiots, No doubt. And that's actually what's happening. So, but yeah, you're right. They tried to frame it so that, it looks like the Americans are in collusion. No, U.S. government had nothing to do with this. This was us doing our thing.
I'm seeing some bigger channels too, and that's part of the reason I wanted to take a segment to focus on it. Like, some bigger channels are seeing that, running with that full story without doing a deeper dive.
Yeah.
I'm hoping now that they'll see this and then recalibrate that and say, oh, so this is what actually happened on the ground. And look, people can make their own decisions about how they feel about this group or another, whatever, free to do it. But at the end of the day, it's like the truth of what was happening has to be told. And then you can make a proper, decision. If you're listening to bullshit, you're going to make a bullshit decision. That's just what it
exactly,
is.
Man. The Emiratis were like, listen, man, if you have a problem with your computer, you don't call an electrician in to fix it. You call in a guy that fixes computers, an IT guy, a specialist, right? Yep. And that's what the Emiratis were like, hey, we don't have this capability, so let's call in, some guys that are specialized in this, they can do this stuff, surgical stuff. And that's important too, surgical. We weren't going out and just massively killing people everywhere. Everything was directed, and every operation we did, we looked at the potential for collateral damage and to minimize that, so everything we did was directional. Even that charge I placed was a directional charge. It was supposed to go in one direction, right? Not all over the place. Because if I wanted to, I could have filled that car up with explosives, just drove it right through the damn front of the building there, So, they leave those points out. Okay. They leave those points out, and people don't know what they don't know. So everybody's like, oh my God, they tried to kill a Muslim, but you know who this Muslim was? They don't know anything about him. Well, they said he's a political.
The Al Qaeda thing you just highlighted, like in the barracks with Al Qaeda.
Yeah.
And that wasn't shown at all.
Yeah, exactly, man. So they leave out a lot of key points to justify their agenda, and I knew they were going to do that. And the reason I did that show, so otherwise I wouldn't have done it. So BBC had been calling me since the Russian war started, right? And they were asking me about mercenaries, the Wagner group, blah, 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 And so I gave them a little bit of information about the Wagner group, what I thought of mercenaries. And then eventually the conversation got steered to, hey, we'd like to do a documentary. Would you, we'd like to do a documentary with you on this stuff, right? And And then it occurred to me that I think they're talking to this other guy, the SEAL again, Isaac, right? Because he's the guy that opened Pandora's box originally, right? He blabbed his mouth, trying to make a movie out of this thing, compromised all of us, gave up all our names and phone numbers, literally gave up our names and phone numbers. So I got news reports calling me and they're asking me, I'm like, who are you? What the hell did they know this? Because this guy literally he literally compromised us all. And so now we're under a microscope, and you would think this was all gone, but it wasn't. Now it pops up again with the war, and there's the Wagner Group and Mercenary, so they're talking to him, and I realize they're talking to him, and they want to do a documentary. And I'm like, man, if he does a documentary, he's going to get us locked up because he's full of shit. He's a liar on a lot of levels, right? And so he has said some things that are not true. And the fact that he was willing to compromise all of us and give up our names and numbers without our permission
for $1
says all I need to know, right? So I said, look, yeah, I'll do the documentary because I figure I can go on there and tell the truth, right? And clean this thing up and give it a better look, And well, I didn't know they already interviewed him. I didn't know that till the BBC show came out.
The reason you didn't get the most airtime too.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because his arrogance, his little attitude, it was pretty telling. And I got on there and just said, I told him the truth. In fact, I got him in so many aha moments, and the hearts and minds game worked, right? I was very nice to them, very accommodating, very open. I shared my personal story with them. I go, these are my children. This is my Muslim wife. They're like, what? Yeah, you didn't know any of that, did you, right? And then they realized that I'm not this knuckle dragger that just says, kill them all like God sorted out. It's like I'm very, relatively intelligent, and I had an idea what I was doing, And more importantly, I was very responsible. So, but I do remember she asked me one time in the interview, she pulls out this list, right? Now, I don't know where she got this list. She goes, I have a list. She goes, there's women on here. Why would you kill women? I go, what are you talking about? There's no women on the list. We had one list, right? One list, 42 targets on it. All men. She goes, well, this woman here, she's she won the Nobel Prize. She's a humanitarian. And why would you want to kill her? I said, I don't know where you got that list from, but that's not the list. I said, there was no women on the list. She goes, well, I got the list, and I'm pretty sure this is the list. And she was adamant about it. I said, it's not the list. We went back and forth. I said, hold on for a second. So I got on my phone, and I called my friend. Now, he's Polish, French Foreign Legionnaire, right? He saw the list, right? He knows what the list was. Now, he didn't know they were coming to interview, but he had no idea this was going on.
They were even on the phone. Yeah, it's just, yep.
So I put him on speakerphone. I go, I'm going to say his name here. I said, Mike. I said, dude, remember the target list over there? Yeah. How many people were on there? 42. He's got a very strong Polish voice. I go, and what was the name of the women? He goes, there were no women on the list. You sure? No, there was a woman on it. He goes, no, there was no women on the list, just men. You sure about that? He goes, yeah. I said, there you go. She looked at me, her eyes got all big. Like, there you go. He didn't even know I was going to call him, right? Didn't know any of this. He didn't know he was going to ask this question. So we hung up. And then later on, she tried to accuse me of blowing up a bunch of people, right, in their cars, right? And she started off with the governor of Aden. She goes, well, you killed the governor of Aden. You put a car bomb in his, bomb in his car and blew him up. Who told you that? I didn't do that. Well, yes, you did, and like 30 other ones too. I laughed. I was like, yeah, right. I said, so, okay, let's start with Aden. I said, and I started thinking about it. I said, wait a minute. So I looked at my phone, and luckily, man, I still had that intel report in there, and it's still in there. And it took me a minute to dig it up, and I dug it up, and it's actually a intel report where Al-Qaeda came out. Now, I said, when did we get there? December 15th, 2015. Okay. I said, and right here, the governor was killed, 6 November, 2015. I said, and right here, Al-Qaeda says they took responsibility for killing the governor. Right, it's right here. So how did I do that again? She's like, huh? I said, yeah. I said, I want to check your sources again because you got it all wrong. Here's the actual reporting, And no, I didn't kill 30 people in their car bombs, right? And so we were actually being blamed for shit that we didn't even do. Yeah. Like, I don't know who blew these people up, but we didn't do it, So, and it turned into that whole thing. And I was disproving her left and right, with evidence. And so, and she realized, I'm not an asshole. I'm not lying. I'm not manipulating her, but I'm being a decent human being, and I'm just
Straight
trying
up.
to be honest, you know. And she realized, fuck, you know, I got nothing on this guy. That's why my part of the interview was kind of like really short,
So sure.
because she's got nothing. She's got nothing on me. But his asshole. So she asked him. Well, did you do more than 30 missions? Well, you know, can't really talk about that. And I'm thinking, yes, you can. Tell her you did one, right? So why you got to say, well, maybe 30, maybe 3,000? What are you doing? You're opening yourself up, you know, for more accusations, you know? And so this is the idiocy we had to deal. This is why I walked out of the desert and walked away from that guy, because that guy's he's reckless, man. Not thinking on his feet at all. And by the way, Abraham didn't know anything about this guy. Turns out he had lost his trident as a SEAL. Shot one of his own guys. Thought he had blanks in a machine gun. Shot him with real ammo. You know, this guy's has some history, and I didn't know this either until later on. Talking to the other SEALs down there, they're the ones that are telling me all this stuff. Like, holy cow! So it all started adding up. But you know, I don't care about that guy. At the end of the day, we did what we were paid to do. We did it. You know, we were calculated about it. We did our due diligence. I was adamant about not going after a target that we were not sure of, right? We're not just going to go dunce a dude because this guy here's got the ass at him because he stole his lunch money in elementary school or some shit. I was like, no, this guy's got to be legit, you know? Otherwise, we're not doing it. And I explained that to her. I said, you look at every guy on my team, you know, they're all professionals. They're, you know, mature men, married kids, you know. We're not a bunch of reckless killers. You know,
And you know who you're looking for too.
Yeah, you know, it's so, you know.
You've seen them.
And then she goes, well, how do you know your, you know, intelligence was right? Intelligence was good. You know, you knew for sure, right? 100%. I go, nope. I said, you know what? You never know 100%. Even in the military, they never know 100% if they got it right. So it's really just you know, you look at it and you go, okay, you know, what's the threshold? You know, it's got to be at least 70%. It's him. You know, you start looking at the totality of all the evidence, circumstances. Yeah, it's probably him. We think we got him in the right location, and you go for it. You know, you're never 100% sure, right? So you just never. And so you work off the intel you have, you work off your instincts, you work off your, you know, experience, and you know, hopefully you got it right. So I think we did.
So wrapping up the mercenary item, I think kind of how we started off with, you know, the idea of being afraid versus being prepared for death. You highlighted this ambush, which I think was really interesting, where you kind of, you know, it lets you know that it was the end, where you were kind of like, all right, probably time to step away. But at the same time, it showcased that idea of being prepared. So can you maybe speak to, you know, that incident, what happened there?
You talking about the ambush in Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. My final ambush. Yeah, so that was interesting too. So we're on the Kunar River, and all the Afghans that worked for us, they were potential targets for Taliban, right? They knew they worked for us; they would try to kill them, right? So, but we had to let our guys go home on vacation too sometimes, right? So we usually gave them like 2 weeks worth of leave. Said, hey, you can take your AK-47s with you, go home for self-protection. But because of where we were located, we couldn't just let them go on their own. They would be killed because Taliban owned a lot of that territory between the bases. And there was one particular strip that was about 7 kilometers long that was just Taliban owned, had a lot of burned out hulks, you know, vehicles been blown up, attacked. So normally what we would do is, and we had another camp down here, probably all total about, if I remember right, about 40, 50 kilometers south of us. Guys that were on vacation coming back, they would go to this camp, they would wait here. Then our guys, when they're ready to go on vacation, we put them in the trucks, we would drive them down here, right? And then these guys would drive them up here in a truck, and we do a switch, and we go back, bring the new guys back off of leave, and the other guys could go on, right? But we had to do this transition right here between in Indian country, so to speak. So this particular night, we're staging, getting ready to launch. We're on the radios, SATCOM radios. I talked to my point of contact down here. He goes, yeah, we're ready. We're lined up. We're ready to launch because we're going to try to meet at the same time, you know, specific time. And all right, roger that. The gates are open. We're on the way out. We go out the gates, you know. And about 2 hours into it, I find out that these guys had a problem with their communications and had to go back, right, and reload all their comms gear and stuff like that. So now they're going to be really late. and we're already on the way, and we're not going back. So we end up going to the link up point on this road, which is along the river, and then you had high ground on the right side and you had high ground on the left side. So we're sitting there, and now they're on their way, but they're like 2 hours behind. And so I think we had 24 vehicles, 23 vehicles. So we're sitting there, and my interpreters had, they had Icon radios, which were the same radios Taliban used, right? And so it's an open net, so we can hear everything they're saying, what they're talking about. So my guys are listening. As we're sitting there, all of a sudden we start getting chatter. Taliban knows we're there. It's pitch black. There's no moon, but they know where we are. And they're up on the high ground, and they start just every now and then shoot a volley of bullets at us to try to get us a response out of it so they can kind of figure out where our vehicles are parked because they don't have night vision. And they're bringing more guys in. They're starting to set up ambushes, IEDs. They're gonna hit us, right? And we're like sitting on the X. And so the other guys are coming back, and we're like, you know what? Let's go send another point element down, about 10 cars or 10 trucks, send them down, link up down here, get these guys and come and bring them up for us. Well, now we know we're being ambushed. We got an ambush down here. We got an ambush on the south, ambush on the north. We've got IED set up in an apex of a turn. Travel speed's about 5 miles an hour maximum. It's about as fast as you can drive on these dirt roads and these trucks, right? So it's going to be really slow. And it's a 7-kilometer stretch where we're going to be in this kill zone. And so we managed to call out for ECAS, emergency close air support. Anybody on station out there, we need air support. Turns out we had an AH-6 Apache that was in the area loitering. Came up on our comm, said, yeah, I can support you, right? So what we did was we sent that point element down 10 vehicles. They linked up with the other vehicles. During that link up, they got ambushed, right, by Taliban. So now the AH-6 is engaged. It's unloading on these dudes, and firefight ensues. AH-6 runs out of ammo. It runs back south to that camp where they had left from to rearm and refit. And then our element comes back with our soldiers, but now they've got casualties, right? They've got guys that have been shot and got wounded, right? So they come back, and we taking care of them, triaging them, and so me and the other 2 Americans that are there with me were like, okay, we got a choice. We can run south or we can run north. Either way, we're running through an ambush, right? So let's go run north back home. And so we turned all the vehicles around. We positioned them. We waited for the Apache to come back because what we wanted him to do is fly in front of us, do a gun run down the road, and start clearing the road for us. And then we're going to just start driving back. Remember, the speed is about 5 miles an hour, so it's not going to be fast movement. Every vehicle is 50 meters apart. We got 23 vehicles, so do the math. We're about a little over a kilometer spread out, right? So, and so it's pitch black and like speeds 5 miles an hour maybe. So we get the vehicles turned around. We're ready to go, and we're listening to the chatter from the Taliban. They're like, "Hey, they already know the plan. They already knew the plan. They're like, yeah, they're going to come in. They're going to run the helicopter down the road, strafe the road. So you guys get as close to the vehicles as you can because they can't strafe their own vehicles. And then when the ambush starts, instead of doing what they traditionally do is a long-range ambush from afar, they decide they're going to do it close and run between the vehicles because now they would cause a crossfire, right? And so they've gotten smarter over the years, right? And so they were right there. And they already identified the vehicles they wanted. And they already identified the weapon systems on them that they're going to take. They already had a plan. I mean, they worked it all out. So, it's like, okay. So we had a plan too. And the plan was, okay, when the H comes in, he opens fire, everybody starts driving. And every vehicle that takes off, as soon as you start driving, every gun on that truck starts shooting outwards at everything and behind anything, any rock, tree that a Taliban
that moves.
You just keep laying out bullets, keep fucking bullets going every direction, right? And I mean, we had Dishkas, we had grenade launchers, 40 millimeter automatic grenade launchers on top of the vehicles. And I remember I was truck number 15. I had all the antennas on it, right? I had a command vehicle. And I'm sitting there, I had 2 Afghans with me, my interpreters. And as I'm sitting there looking through my night vision goggles, I can see the first truck take off, it's shooting. Then the second truck takes off, it's shooting. It's like March of the Penguins. And the third truck, and then the fourth truck, So I had plenty of time to think about all this, as I'm watching. I'm thinking, Jesus, this is the first time I've ever drove through an ambush to get out of an ambush, and, but I don't have a choice, And so And I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm thinking, man, if I get out of this one, it's time to hang up the guns, because at that time I was 40, what was I, 47, I think at the time. And I thought, if I get out of this one, I'm just going to call it quits, And so, and I remember sitting there, and we talked about resolving your own death right earlier, right? And so one of the things that can inhibit you from performing at your maximum, especially under stress and duress like that in combat, is if your thoughts shift to something else doesn't matter right now. Like if you're in a fight, the last thing you need to be thinking about is your kid, right? Or anything else. Did I pay for my insurance, right? Whatever, right? You just need to be focusing on the threat and how you're going to take care of it, right? So I said, okay, I don't want nothing else to bother me. So I remember sitting there in a truck, engines running, watching the one by one gunfights start, and I'm thinking, okay, family. I can see each one of my kids' faces in my mind, one at a time. Each one, my sons, my daughters, and then my wife. I got all that out of the way, boom, and now focus, right? And so at that moment, I made sure that my death was completely resolved, and I had no lingering thoughts to think about. I got that clear; it's all sorted out, and now I just focus on the movement. So, and off we went. And so, I think we had about 7 vehicles get shot up. We all got through, no KIAs on our part. We did have some WIAs. We got on the other end. And I remember after we stopped, you could hear the Taliban commander yelling at the trigger guy for the ID. He goes, "Why didn't you set off the IDs? Why didn't you set off the IDs?" And he goes, "Because I couldn't, because there were so many bullets coming. I couldn't get my head up." Because he had set it up in an apex turn where we had to make a turn, and that's where it was set up, right?
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it. He couldn't get his head up because it's like, fuck, And so, yeah, we pulled it off. And
that's incredible.
And then we got back to the camp that morning and, cleaned up and sorted it all out. And then I decided, yeah, this is it for me. I made it through this one like I promised myself. I'm done. So that was kind of the end for me. Yeah, that was in. And then I moved on and started doing. Then I got discovered in Hollywood. I sold my other company, and doing Hollywood stuff for a while. Then the company thing didn't work out because the investors screwed that up. So the Hollywood thing worked out for a couple of years, and I realized this is not for me either,
Yeah, I can't imagine you hanging out.
No, it wasn't. I mean, I made some good friends out there. They're not all bad people, but the whole industry is just, I don't know. So I ended up, going to Hong Kong, and living over there for a while, which is kind of cool.
So let me ask, wrapping up, with these 2 parts, and we'll do that next one. But within these 2, we look through, your whole military career. You've done a little bit of everything, been a little bit everywhere. Do you have any regrets or anything that you would do different, or would you do it all again?
Man, the only regrets I have is that, my personal life, I've been through a lot of divorces, missed a lot of time with my kids. Maybe I would have never had a divorce, but I didn't get that opportunity, And, it's like they said, if you want to be in the Army, especially in Special Forces, they wanted you to have a wife that issued one, and it's true. It's hard to be married in that kind of line of work when you're always gone. You're gone a lot. Let's be real. Your wives are home, they get lonely. You're not around. And then they realize they don't really need you because I didn't need you. You were gone the whole time. And then you come back, you're just kind of in the way. Then when you do come back, you come back with baggage, you got things that you got to deal with, and it's trying to reassimilate and get back into the family life can be really challenging, And my last wife, we talked about, not my last one, my previous one, but, I had a great marriage. Man. We did really well, man. We were making big bucks, had a good life. Everything was perfect, man. Really was good. And after we were married for 12 years, and it just went south, man. And like really, really fast. And there was no salvaging it. And she tried, she wanted to. At first I thought I wanted to, then I just, it didn't work out. And long story short, when I looked back at it and I explained it to her, I said, it wasn't you. Now that I think about it, it wasn't you, it was me. There was a movie with Mel Gibson about Vietnam. I think it was called when we were men or something like that.
Oh, when we were soldiers.
When we were soldiers, yeah. Okay, there you go. The first time, they're going to go to Vietnam and they're getting all spun up, they're all excited, and they can't wait to go, It kind of reminds me of that, man, because it became an addiction. And when I came home, I couldn't wait to go back. Mm-hmm. That's the weirdest part, right? So I have a great home, man. I got a custom-built 3-story home on a pond and a golf course. We're driving exotic cars. Kids are going, everything's good, man. I got a beautiful wife. No drama, no problem. Everything. I had a good life, what everybody would want. But I would come home, and all I want to do is go back to that dingy, dusty shithole, sleeping in a freaking Connex trailer box, and living an austere life, going out and risking my life, on a nightly basis, and dealing with all that shit, and it's like it became almost like an addiction. It was kind of weird. I was more at home there than I was at home.
Yeah.
And as bizarre as that sounds, I would come home and I couldn't wait to leave. Not because I didn't love her or my family or anything like that. I know that most people will never understand it. You'll never understand it unless you've been there. You'll never understand it. Mm-hmm. I can't even explain it. It's like what compels a guy to want to go back to the jaws of death. When I was at home, I could be getting nookie every night, getting food and peace, and nobody shooting at me, and I'm gonna get to hang out with my kids. And who leaves that kind of life to go over there and live in shit, and go through what you go through, Mm-hmm. Makes no sense, right? Makes absolutely no sense. I can't figure it out either. So would I do it again? Yeah, that's the crazy part. I'd do it again. I've done it again, Mm-hmm. I've done it again. And would I do it again? If somebody came up to me, say, I got this job, here's the money, this is good money. It's not about the money. I would do it again. I just want the money to make sure that I don't, forsake my family.
Yeah.
I want to sure everybody's taken care of and there's plenty of money. It's not the money I do it for. It's because I always tell people every now and then you got to go back and take a drink from the well. And one of these times I'll fall in that well, and it's over. But I know that, but we're always going to go back because it's in the DNA. I grew up in the military. My dad was in the Army for 20 years. I grew up in the military culture. That's what's been bred into me. That's all I know. 20 years in the Army, another 10 years for the government, doing the mercenary stuff, working in the security field, doing things I do now. That's what I am. That's who I am, And so I can't imagine a life without any of that. So my only regret is on a personal level, it's cost me a lot. I didn't get to live the life the average guy gets to live to. The guy to over here complaining about shit because, whatever, the flies at desk all day, I didn't get that life. My life was rugged. It was austere. It was painful on many levels, physically, emotionally. What it's like to come home and find out your wife left you for another man, shit like that. And she's taking your kids too. Those are the kind of things, those are the kind of realities that soldiers have to deal with. And so I would do it all again in spite of all that. That's really nuts, right? I would do it again. Even my wife now, even my wife now, she's like, when I tell her I'm going to go do something, she goes, she knows she can't stop me, mm-hmm. and she's not going to talk me out of it, but I can tell she's not happy about it, and she's actually sad about it. She's like, please come back, please, just nothing's, don't die, we need you, I get it, but there's a part of me that's like, I get it, but I got to go do this. I don't know. It's something inside that just makes you do it.
Well, it's what we talked about before that, we talked about the Delta, we talked about Ground Branch, we talked about all these different groups. It's like what makes that person. And at the end of the day, it boils down to in our nature, where there were those warriors that wanted to always risk everything to go out for the good. Yeah. And there's a lot of us, we sit at home and stuff that we talked about today, the world's evil. There are terrible people out there. And we need people like you to be able to go confront them in the face. Because without that, where would we be? So for me, I'm sure from plenty of the viewers and from a lot of people, we're goddamn thankful we have you. I'll tell you that.
Well, thank you. When people thank me for my service, you know what I always tell them? No, thank you. They look at me like, why? I I said, thank you for giving me the opportunity as an American to go out and do this, right? I feel like it's a privilege and it's a duty and it's an honor and I enjoy it. So unfortunately today, I feel like more than half Americans don't deserve this. They don't deserve what I did. They don't deserve it, but I did it anyways because I'm doing it for, I'm doing it for the American way of life. I'm doing it for what's right. I'm doing it for, this idea of a country called America, and that's why I do it. And I do it for my children and my children's children. All right. My mom used to ask me, son, why do you have to be the one to do it? I tell her, Mom, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Who's going to do it? Nobody's lining up for this. And those that are lining up, 95% of them can't even do it. They'd like to, but they just can't do it. I'm the ones that can do it. So, send me, I'll do it. It's sometimes you got to do things that are bigger than yourself, and the older you get, like me now, I'm 61. I don't care about material stuff. I don't need nothing, man. I don't need money. I just need enough to take care of me and my family. I want to give them all I can give them. They deserve everything. And I'm willing to risk anything for that. And I don't need anything. I don't need fancy stuff. Look, I fly economy class. I don't believe in wasting money to fly business class. I slept in Motel 6 last night, $36. Hoo-hoo. You know what I need? I don't even need a bed. Just give me some water and a shitter, man. I'm good. So I don't get rained on, so I can keep my suitcase inside. So I'm a minimalist in that way. I'm not spoiled. I don't need that kind of crap, because again, it's not about me. It's about a higher purpose, and most people don't have purpose. They don't know what their purpose is. I know what mine is. It's always been the same. And that's what I tell a lot of my coaching clients, when they come to me, they're like lost sheep. And I ask them, well, what is your purpose? Well, and it's always the same answer. Well, my purpose is to, be good to people, not hurt furry animals, and it's like, yeah, that's everybody's purpose. But why are you here?
Why are you on this planet?
Yeah. What is your purpose for? And the next part is, and then what is your legacy going to be? How do you want to be remembered by your kids and your grandkids, in the world, And so think of it like this. You're writing a script to your own movie. You're going to be the action hero. What's this movie going to look like? And so think of it that way. Script your life, man, your purpose. And remember, at the end of the day, how do you want this thing, you want this to be an all-time favorite, in 500 years from now, remember our great-great-great-great-granddad, he wrote American Badass, I keep laughing, hopefully in 100,000 years, some archaeologist will pull my book up out of a coffin and go, who's this guy? This guy must have been like the emperor or something, an American badass, emperor of America, whatever, right? Yep. And so I've already established a legacy, and it won't last long. I'm not that big of a deal, but to my family, I will be for a while, and that's all that matters because what I'm trying to do is empower my future generations to be a better version of me. And but you got to have purpose, man. And I know what mine is. It's to do the things that I'm doing, do it righteously. This is why I got on InfoWars, and they asked me, okay, you have some talking points. I go, I'm here for 2 reasons. I said, 2 reasons, sir. I said, 1, I said, I'm here on behalf of my wife because the injustice that was done to her and me and what this government has done to my family. I said, it's unconscionable, it's criminal. And I said, I would be a coward if I didn't stand up. I said, I've done everything I can to make this situation right for her. And everybody just told me to pack sand. I said, you're like my final option. And so here I am.
You want to highlight that as well for the viewer, just in case.
Yeah. So, so long story short, what happened was, I try to make it as short as I can. There's a lot of details, but long story short, my wife and I were married in America. Okay. I've applied for a green card over 3 years ago. Should have took 4 to 7 months. We're 3 years into it. And by the way, they're not going to give her a green card. We're married in the United States. We've been in and out. We have a home in Florida. She's got a DOD, Department of Defense ID card. Okay. And we came here during COVID, couldn't go back because of the COVID restrictions in Indonesia. We couldn't fly back. So we stayed here on an unlimited 5-year unlimited entry visa. We stayed more than 6 months. We didn't know there was a limit. Honestly, didn't know. My wife got hit by a police car at 90 miles an hour she was a passenger sitting in a car turning, was hospitalized. Anyways, therapy, blah, 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 blah. In that process, it was determined she had cancer. So now she's going to go with cancer therapy. COVID restrictions still aren't relieved. And so we ended up staying over a year in the United States, right? Because of all this stuff that happened. Didn't intend to. Why would we? We have company, we have business in Indonesia that needs our tending. So when she was healthy enough to travel back, we left. Came back 6 weeks later for follow-on doctor appointments. Flew into LAX CBP. I'm not going. I don't want to disparage all the people there, but there's some real tools in that, and I know who they are. If you're listening, asshole, and they're not just dudes either. Basically pulled us a secondary, separated us. I said, "What's going on here? Your wife's an overstay." What are we talking about, right? 5-year overstay. First question they asked her, "Is your husband Dale Comstock?" She goes, "Yes." They got on the phone. It's him, and the shit show started. So what they did, and I've gotten this from many sources, even at the political level, they go, "It's not her, it's you they're going after," right? And they're using her to do it. So they kept us apart, wouldn't let us talk to each other, wouldn't let us text each other, told me to wait in a baggage claim for 2 hours while they interview her. Never answered me. 24 hours later, without my knowledge, they deported my wife without any money, credit cards, clothes, phone charge. They put her on an airplane, 2 police officers escorted out of our country. They changed her, they did an interview, changed all her no answers to affirmative answers. Like, "Did you know you were an overstay?" She's like, "No, I didn't know I was an overstay," right? She thought we didn't know. We thought we had a 5-year unlimited visa, right? We didn't know there's a limit on a 5-year unlimited visa, right? So anyways, they changed all her answers to yes. She's acknowledging all these things, when in fact she didn't. And there's a bunch of lies that went on. Plus the treatment itself, in the back office, what they did to her, like I said, it's unconscionable. They're lucky that I didn't see that happening when it happened, because I probably would have been back there and smoke checked all of them, man. I'm telling you, you can tell in my voice even right now as I'm thinking about it. Okay. It's the one thing in my life, I've never been so mad ever. And every time I start thinking about it, my head just starts spinning because of what, you can fuck with me all you want, but don't ever fuck with my wife. And these guys did, and I know who they are. And I'm taking action against all of them. I've been trying, I've been pushing it. And anyways, it's just insane, man. It's just totally insane. So they told her it was only a 90-day administrative return. She'd go back, come back. No, they actually banned her for 3 years and didn't tell me. You know how I know all this? Because I got sent from insiders that are my coaching clients. They're like on the computer at their home going, "Here's all the screenshots. This is what they're doing," right? Anyways, long story short, there's a lot of bullshit that went on there. And so then I've got this threat against me. 6 months ago, I was approached by DOJ, FBI, said, "You have a real incredible threat against you. You need to get your family off the X. Do everything you can to get it to save them." Okay, so the government just warned me. They have a duty to help me, right? So I go to the embassy and to the government, go, "Look, I think you should give my wife a green card now. Stop making me wait." And the reason they make her wait so far is because my insider told me they pushed her and every green card applicant to the back of the line so they could push all these criminals that came across the border to the front of the line, okay? And we paid for this, by the way. So, and that's coming from the guys inside that actually processed these documents. So I said, "Well, you know what? Now you should get me and my family out of here, right?" And yeah. So you would think I'd be out of here in a matter of days. Well, it's been 6 months and they haven't done a damn thing for me. And they keep telling me go through this administrative process. I go, "Wait a minute, explain to me how all these criminals should walk across the border, you hand them money, cell phones, and you fly them around the country. And I got to go through this bureaucratic process, which I've already started 3 years ago, and you keep taking my money and then tell me, sorry, I can't get a green card after I give you the money." It's just, they keep lying to me is what they've done, right? They're outright lying to me. And so I've been talking to certain people at a certain level, all the way up almost on the Trump level. And one thing led to another. And they're like, "You know what? You should tell the story and we're going to get you on something a little bit bigger." So that's how I ended up on the Alex Jones show. He heard about what was going on, invited me in. And so I got on a show and told the story, what's going on. But really, and I told him, I said, "I'm here for 2 reasons. One, for me and my wife, but particularly for my wife. As a man, I'm going to do everything I can for her and for my family. And that's why I'm here. I've come to this level because I'm not going to tuck my tail and just walk away and go, okay. And two, I said, I'm here for Americans because you guys need to know what's going on. This is what they're willing to do to me. I'm a veteran, twice decorated for valor. I've given blood for this country. So has my father, my son, my sister, everybody. I said, I have served loyally, man, for this country. And this is the treatment I get. I get pushed to the back of the line and I'm told, and you know what they actually told me? They told me at the embassy, ready for this? If this don't piss you off, I don't know what will. They go, well, sometimes we got to take responsibility for the choices we make in life. I'm like, did you just say that, motherfucker? I said, what? I'm the guy that stood between the terrorists that want to kill you and your family. I stood between them. And now they want to kill me and my family. And you're telling me I'm on my own?
That's literally what we were saying earlier.
Yeah. And oh man, and that's the response from the United States government. Okay. That's what I'm getting from them. All right. And this is why I went on the show. And that's why I wanted everybody to hear what I had to say, because it's not just about me. It's about you. It's about how they're going to treat us and what they're already doing and how they're treating us. And the last thing I did was, I made it a point to say this is, there are millions of veterans. We're the strongest force in America. We're the strongest force in America. We take up arms. You're not stopping us. U.S. military can't stop us. We talked about guerrilla warfare earlier, and that's what it's going to go to. And I'm not trying to be a revolutionary, but I'm saying, listen, you know what? The government should probably be very careful who they're trifling with, because, you're going to wake that sleeping giant who's already alert now. Don't piss him off and stand on his tail because it's going to get bad. They need to respect that. But veterans need to stand up and be heard and be seen, and let everybody know we're here and there's a limit to this madness because we all took an oath to protect this country from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And there's no statute of limitations on that,
Hey, what is going on, guys? I know we're almost wrapping up the episode, but obviously with the clip that you guys just saw with Dale and his family, frankly, that whole situation is unacceptable. So I wanted to pause here quick and talk about how we're going to be putting a petition together that you guys can go sign below to make sure you can help Dale and his family get into the U.S. Obviously, with the election results being what they were, there's more opportunity for this to actually be able to happen. But really, as many signatures as possible. We want to make sure we get this through the door and, get Dale and his family in a safe place. We're going to be leveraging a lot of other influencers and podcasts to tag along on this. But, I think you guys can all agree it's frankly unacceptable, and whatever we can do to help, we should. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode thus far, and let's wrap it up.
No doubt, brother. Well, I think the camera's about to wrap up, so I just want to make sure we get this before, man. Awesome conversations today. I couldn't enjoy more. We're going to get you right back out here, like I said, sometime in the spring or something. But, what I said at the end, couldn't be more thankful that you're here for what you've done, for what you do. And I think you're a great representation of a person, of an American, and as a human. You bring so many great values and can't appreciate it more, man. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, brother.
I enjoyed it, man. I'd be happy to come back anytime.